Chapter 121, Nagato's Arrival, a Super Shadow level showdown. Toby, how can your power be restored? Hidden Rain Village. Nagato streaked toward the battlefield as he adjusted to his borrowed body. He had just experienced Toby's power and understood its importance. If he gave Toby up now, Nagato felt he would be starting from scratch, relearning even how to walk. With Toby's battle armor fused to him, though, he felt only strength. Even without specializing in taijutsu, his movement was a gale, no worse than body flicker. Absorbing Toby's chakra had made his own reserve into an enormous, vibrant ocean. The wood release from Hashirama cells was amplified to an astonishing degree. All of it had come through Toby. Nagato could not imagine how terrifyingly strong they'd be if Toby were fully restored and fused with his current self. He felt no caution toward this Toby, who had helped him and also carried Hashirama cells. Only deep goodwill, unlike the wary feeling he reserved for Uchiha Obito. Leader, Toby said openly, I can only recover by absorbing yang release chakra and wood release chakra. 2 ways, he continued without concealment. 1, I absorb your chakra, leader, as you just absorbed mine. 2, you use the Preta path to help me draw on the tailed beast's chakra. The tailed beast chakra is the purest, and a tailed beast ball is formed from both yin and yang chakra. Tailed beast chakra, I understand. Nagato nodded and increased his speed. Having grown familiar with his new form, he no longer just flickered, he rose into the sky. Repulsion is a natural force and cannot propel continuous flight like wind, so Nagato used the Asura path. His hands became mechanical cannons that spewed thrusting flames in mock-like rings, turning him into a jet blazing toward the battlefield. Izanami's chakra had been a bright moon, the focal point the moment he appeared. But this new, powerful chakra streaking through the air made every sensing ninja on the field freeze with shock. What is that? The Akatsuki leader? No, this isn't the right direction. What terrifying chakra, like a tailed beast, Hidden Rain actually has something like that? Could he be the true leader of the Akatsuki? Rumors and fear rippled through the Cloud Ninja, spies and Akatsuki members alike. Even hardened Akatsuki operatives looked solemn. Do we have someone like this in our organization? With chakra like that, even the leader might not be stronger. The Pain who uses black rods, could he be the real leader? Only Konan, flying, covered her mouth, tears streaking down her face in 2 lines. Nagato, it's wonderful, she whispered, voice choked but full of joy. At her voice, a trailing afterimage with a tail of flame flew up and stopped before her. Konan, you've done well, leave the rest to me. Nagato smiled with assured youth and gravitas. Okay. Konan nodded heavily, beat her paper wings, and left the field. She knew she was Nagato's only weakness. Without her there, he would have no obvious flaw. Watching her depart, Nagato looked down at the battlefield and addressed everyone in a young yet commanding tone. I will take over. Akatsuki, everyone withdraw. It really is our leader. I didn't expect the true Pain to be so young, like the owner of that reincarnation eye. That chakra befits a sage's eye. His hair color may be an Uzumaki descendant. Could the Rinnegan be an Uzumaki bloodline limit? The teams exchanged glances and retreated. Even the 4th Raikage, seeing Nagato's Rinnegan, yet no black rods, felt a grim premonition. Everyone retreat now. Back to the land of lightning, he barked. The elite ninjas on the field, full execution squads, did as ordered and vanished in afterimages. Jonin and ace fighters covered the retreat, attacking nearby puppets in case they sought ambush. But the puppets simply used Flying Thunder God to vanish as well. The Cloud forces hurried their retreat, unnerved that even the puppets had abandoned the fight. The surviving White Zetsu clone slipped underground and disappeared. Soon, only 5 remained, Nagato above, Izanami on the ground, and the AB combination alongside Ni Yugito in a triangular formation around Izanami. Izanami ignored the surrounders and fixed his attention on Nagato. More than a dozen bubbles visible only to him floated around Nagato, entries perhaps, but before Izanami could inspect them, Nagato dropped to the ground and slammed down. All creation of attraction. Before the dust cleared, a figure rocketed from the cloud, Killer Bee. The Cloud Village's Big 3, 4th Raikage included, felt trapped. Why would Nagato attack them if the Akatsuki and this stranger from the moon were cooperating? The 4th Raikage instinctively surged with chakra and sliced through the pull, but he too was thrown back when the force hit. A laser from Nagato shot toward Killer Bee midair. Bee didn't hesitate. He shifted into a half-tailed beast form and unleashed an orange-red beam of chakra from his mouth. The two beams collided in a thunderous explosion whose sound reached the retreating forces and made them accelerate further. Akatsuki members halted to watch the rising mushroom cloud. Inside it, Killer Bee barely rerouted his sensing. Wooden vines erupted from the earth, twisting into branches and binding him like a wrapping. "Bee!" the fourth Raikage shouted as the vines looped around. "Wood release, silent killing bind technique," Nagato's voice said, teasing. "Eight Tails Jinchuriki, I'll borrow your chakra for a moment." Red-tailed beast chakra streamed out from Bee along the vines and into the dust cloud. In an instant, Killer Bee reverted from his half-tailed state to normal, his chakra drained and his power gone. A comic voice echoed from the cloud. I'm full. Toby's back to full strength." An invisible storm formed and blew the mushroom cloud away. Nagato, calm, tossed the bound Killer Bee toward the fourth Raikage, severing the wooden connection. The Raikage braked, intercepted Bee, and glared at Nagato. Nagato ignored him and addressed Izanami directly, advising the Cloud's big three, "Withdraw. The next battle isn't something you should participate in." "I'm one of the 5 Kage," the fourth Raikage snapped, offended. He ordered Yugito, who was still in her Jinchuriki form, to take Bee and leave. She obeyed. In moments, only Izanami, Nagato, and the Raikage stood on the field. Neither Izanami nor Nagato paid attention to the Raikage. They faced each other, observing. Nagato used the Rinnegan to assess Izanami's chakra and ocular power. Izanami studied Nagato's entries with surprise and delight. The panel was opulent. He saw labels: Rinnegan, gold; Beyond Kage Potential, gold; Chakra Control, gold; Wood Release Bloodline Limit, blue, gold; Ninjutsu Master, purple; Uzumaki Bloodline, purple; Senju Bloodline, purple; Otsutsuki Bloodline, purple; Summoning Master, purple; Sealing Jutsu Genius, blue; Medical Jutsu Genius, blue; Puppet Master Genius, blue; Genjutsu Genius, blue; Taijutsu Genius. 4 golds, 5 purples, 5 blues, 14 entries total. Outside of himself, Izanami had never seen anyone with double-digit entries. The Rinnegan's level caught Izanami's attention, not because of its strength, but because it lacked a bloodline prefix. His own reincarnation eye was red and bore a bloodline limit prefix that granted both repulsion and attraction. Nagato had 6 paths techniques and yin-yang release, but his Rinnegan was only gold and bore no bloodline prefix, clearly transplanted. Nagato's wood release, on the other hand, blazed in 2 colors, the first time Izanami had seen a dual-colored entry. He suspected it might come from Toby's battle armor or the wood release chakra Toby had injected. "You're not Rinnegan born, so how do you know about the Outer Path demonic statue?" Nagato asked suddenly, probing this moon visitor. "You said your mission in the Shinobi world was to recover it. Was the Outer Path demonic statue once stored on the moon? Do you know what abilities it has?" Nagato worried Izanami might know the statue could seal tailed beasts, and if Izanami failed to recover it, he might hunt Jinchuriki and wreck their plans. Before Izanami could reply, Toby, anxious that the moon visitor might reveal the statue's identity as the 10 Tails, interrupted. "Leader, why are you talking so much? Just capture him and use the human path to search his soul." He then forced Nagato's hands together. Wood release. Deep forest emergence. The earth cracked and green pythons of wood burst up, leaves sprouting as they coiled toward Izanami. Izanami, fierce and uncomplicated, simply lifted a palm and released a powerful repulsive storm. The green wave, extremely tough and even fireproof, shattered into foam-like fragments. "Shinra Tensei," Nagato answered with his own repulsive storm. Unlike the earlier Tendo Pain, this Nagato was enhanced and matched Izanami's chakra control. Their Shinra Tensei energies were effectively balanced. Neither could overwhelm the other with that technique alone. The resulting collision created visible airflow, spatial distortion, forming a hemispherical, transparent white shield that surged forward like a wall. The moving shield knocked the fourth Raikage far away and shattered mountains and puppets alike that lay in its path. When the storm subsided, the Raikage saw Izanami and Nagato as tiny black dots in a vast, emptied terrain. His pride and the old stories about his grandfather facing the first Hokage fell into perspective. Against such superlative power, even a Kage was merely watching from afar. In the distance, the Akatsuki watched in stunned awe. "This is the leader's true strength. Rinnegan and wood release," murmured some. Deidara shouted in delight at the display of artful destruction. On the battlefield, Nagato and Izanami clashed directly. As the repulsive storms died, Nagato's hand formed gravity and yanked Izanami upward, while his other mechanical hand fired a huge laser. He meant to see if Izanami's eyes included the Preta path that absorbs ninjutsu. Izanami, in turn, condensed a water javelin with one hand and hurled it. Nagato shifted tactics, interrupting the laser, converting gravity into repulsion to form an invisible air wall that scattered the javelin and struck Izanami. Izanami did the same. Distorted airflow reconvened into a transparent white shield, but it vanished quickly this time. Both men had gleaned crucial information. Nagato could use Tendo and Asura abilities simultaneously, but not Tendo and Preta. Izanami likely lacked or scorned the Preta path. The battle would not be a stalemate of Shinra Tensei. They needed something else. They implicitly closed in for taijutsu. Nagato, enhanced by the Asura path, and Tobi threw a heavy straight punch. Izanami, whose eyes seemed to glimpse the future, fainted and left an afterimage, then flashed behind Nagato and launched a lightning spear, Chidori's sharp spear. The spear met not flesh, but a transparent white shield that instead emitted suction, converting the spear back into lightning chakra and channeling it into Nagato. Simultaneously, Nagato's back bulged as if covered in small mouths. Countless wooden spikes spat toward Izanami. Wood release, cutting sprigs technique. Izanami reflexively used Shinra Tensei to cancel the barrage, bouncing Nagato back. But Nagato had clasped his hands. He fired a black sphere into the sky. Earth Explosion Star! The sphere seemed like a black hole, emitting intense gravity. The ground cracked and rubble rose as the sphere pulled everything upward. Izanami tried to scatter the debris with a repulsive storm, but the black sphere barely shook. Its condensed gravitational form resisted. Nagato landed flanked by two shadow clones. They spat chakra of different colors. 5 hues collided into a mixed tidal wave that used Earth Explosion Star's pull to roar upward toward Izanami. Between the black sphere above and the 5-release wave below, Izanami seemed trapped. His only option was a teleport escape. Use Flying Thunder God and retreat. That would cost him face. But Izanami merely smiled and raised his hand. Nagato felt the gravity field expand, all creation of attraction, pulling Nagato's main body into the field and toward Izanami. Nagato's expression finally changed. His shadow clones, straining their last chakra, tried to pull him back with all creation of attraction, but their gravity could not match Izanami's. "Leader, now's our chance. Close in," Tobi's excited voice urged in Nagato's mind. Remembering Tobi's earlier method of sealing Killer Bee, Nagato surrendered to the pull and quietly gathered chakra, ready to counter with a repulsive storm. Izanami then spat out a great cloud of dust, fire release, dust cloud technique. It was a concealment, a blinding fog, but against the Rinnegan, it was useless. Nagato saw Izanami's chakra. The dust's purpose was different. Flames flared within, and not just orange-red. 4 more balls of different colored flame coalesced around it. The 5 flames merged until they became purplish-black, then burst into a blinding white light. The explosion stunned observers. The white sphere shrank rapidly until, at its smallest, a black silhouette stood inside the light. The light faded into a transparent shield, and within, Nagato stood. He had used the Preta path. Izanami, the Earth Explosion Star, and the 5-release tidal wave had vanished. Nagato had absorbed 2 5-release ninjutsu, not losing chakra, but growing stronger. He looked toward the sky, black despite the lack of rain, now glowing orange-red. Fireballs began to rain down, giant meteorites plummeting, streaking like orange-red comets. From afar, spies and ninja watched in horror. Cloud forces recognized the scene and clenched their teeth with hate and fear. "Is this the end of the world?" some whispered. The Akatsuki gaped. Only Deidara shouted with ecstatic admiration. "Tobi, can you stop this?" Nagato asked, looking at the meteor shower. "If it's you and me working together, yes," Tobi replied in his comic tone. Nagato felt relief and grinned. "How shall we cooperate?" "You, leader, must expend chakra," Tobi said. Nagato clasped his hands and poured his chakra into wood release. Together, voices overlapping, they invoked the technique of the ninja god that was said to pacify chaos. Would release. Tree World Advent. A tidal wave of green snakes surged skyward. Above, meteors fell. Below, a green tidal wave climbed. To distant onlookers, it was like two massive hands, one red, one green, colliding, the destruction of heaven and earth. The spectacle drove home what supercog-level power meant, the combat power of a ninja god. Chapter 122, Tianai Genshin, the Second Feudal Movement. In this era, shinobi and civilians across the 5 great shinobi countries had seen explosions before, the most fearsome being the tailed beast ball, a strategic-level attack capable of leveling hills and changing the tide of battle. Even so, whether it was Chunin and elite Jonin in flak jackets or the Akatsuki members who could threaten the 5 Kage, all of them felt the tailed beast's power was limited to that level, until now. Even Niyu Gito and Killer Bee, who had become perfect Jinchuriki, felt for the first time how small they were. Mushroom clouds of orange-red fire rose from the distant front where the two combatants met. The detonations hadn't yet reached them, but the hurricanes driven by the shockwaves already slammed through. Many Cloud Ninja who thought they were safely positioned were blown off their feet and thrown to the ground by the howling wind. Those who managed to gather chakra into their feet to stay planted still had to shield their eyes against the sand and dust. Before they could see more, the gale-driven dust and the quaking earth swallowed everything. The formation disintegrated in an instant. On the Akatsuki side, Deidara, riding a giant white clay bird, and Sasori of the Red Sand were also forced to abandon their mount and land atop a rocky outcrop. Though largely unaffected physically by the wind and dust, the scene hit them harder in their hearts. In an age without superstandard combatants, these S-rank rogues were the strongest people in the ninja world, arguably stronger than the 5 Kage in one-on-one fights. They had moved through Konoha like they pleased before. Yet now, facing whatever force unleashed here, they felt insignificant. Beside those two monsters, they might be nothing more than playthings, targets that didn't even require large-scale ninjutsu. The idea of being singled out made their scalps prickle. Fortunately, one of those monsters was their leader. With him around, their situation was at least better than that of the 5 great shinobi countries. The meteor barrage kept pounding for an unknown length of time before finally ceasing. In that span, the wind and dust had engulfed the 3 observer groups. Except for Hinata, still some 20 kilometers away, everyone's vision was a hazy gray. The shockwaves and tremors made it hard even for elite ninja to stand. The shaking reached Hidden Rain Village. Thankfully, its steel structures and protective barrier held, and Conan's return kept the villagers from panicking into the underground shelters. When the explosive thunder and shrieking wind finally died down, a gust blew most of the dust aside. All 3 forces turned their gaze back toward the battlefield, where Izayoi-kun and Nagato fought, and saw a vast area shrouded in a dust so thick you couldn't see your hand, like a desert caught in a sandstorm. Boom! Just as a sensing ninja formed hand signs to release a full sensing jutsu and check the chakra of the 2 monsters, the top layer of that dust suddenly peeled away. To be precise, a terrifying air current blew the top off the storm. But this wasn't a repulsive force storm. What is that? Are you kidding? Another meteor? As the dust cleared, everyone stared in disbelief. The object was indeed a meteor, but unlike the earlier barrage, this one didn't burn into a fireball from atmospheric friction. It fell like a mountain. The air current that blew away the dust had punched a huge hole in the dark clouds, exposing blue sky and noon sun. Heavenly obstacle destroys stars. Before the supermeteor could hit the ground and kick up another sea of dust, an invisible repulsive force pushed the remaining storm aside. The falling mountain of rock hung frozen, then shattered from its bottom upward, fragments flying into the sky at a visible speed. In a blink, the meteor became a spray of rubble shooting upward as if trying to blast the cloud hole into tatters. As the repulsive force died down, another supermeteor dropped through the rent in the sky. Rumble. The ground shook again, and from the earth rose a 100-meter-tall Buddha statue with hundreds of huge arms. As it emerged, those arms swept outward with a sound that cut the air. One blow struck a rocky mountain and then slammed into the falling meteor, shattering it. The impact cost the statue many wooden arms. They splintered under the meteor's force. The falling meteor once again broke into a cascade of stones pouring down like rain. Another super meteor fell through the sky. The Buddha could no longer simply obliterate it with an arm swipe. But Nagato, standing atop the statue, remained expressionless. The statue's head tilted up, opened its mouth, and spewed 5 colored chakra flames that merged into a 5 elements flame pillar soaring skyward. The pillar collided with the meteor and erupted into a gigantic aerial fireworks display, an explosion like a tailed beast ball. Its shockwave streaked into a hurricane and swept across the battlefield once more, completely on a different level. How many ranged jutsu are they releasing? Do they have no limits? Is this how the Valley of the End formed? Amid the whipping wind, the 3 groups watched, stunned. Even perfect Jinchuriki cannot constantly fire tailed beast balls, yet these 2 were using jutsu that matched or surpassed that scale, again and again. The chakra, the command of ninjutsu, it made these ninja question themselves. They were supposed to be the elite of the 5 great shinobi countries, so why was the gap so enormous? When the 3rd super meteor bloomed into a firework and no more falling rocks came through the cloud hole, a small black dot drifted down from the sky. Izayoi-kun, disguised as the 19-year-old Otsutsuki Toneri. He still carried an arrogant posture, looking down like a god. His reincarnation eye watched over every living thing. But up close, his breathing was a little ragged, and sweat beaded under his white hair, evidence that even his sea-like chakra had been heavily drained by the torrent of powerful jutsu. Below him, Nagato looked similarly taxed. Had he not absorbed the 8 Tails chakra, Nagato would be in a worse state. Ultra Shinra Tensei, Wood Release, Wood Human Technique, and the 5 Elements Flame Pillar all demanded massive chakra. The gravity Izayoi-kun sustained by converting chakra was on the same scale as Ultra Shinra Tensei. If not for the Reincarnation Eye's astonishing long-range vision, able to see from the ninja world to outer space and lock on meteor positions, even pouring all his chakra into gravity wouldn't let Izayoi-kun summon so many meteors or perform 3 heavenly obstacle destroys stars. Without that ocular long-distance perspective, precise strikes would be impossible. With Shinra Tensei no longer always decisive, facing Nagato who wielded the Prita path, Izayoi-kun had no option but physical attacks if he wanted to win. His wood release couldn't be exposed, and even if it were, it wouldn't be as effective as Nagato in Tobi armor. Unless Izayoi-kun had reached the 8 gates and opened the 7th now, all he could do was bombard the field with meteors. Unexpectedly, the Tobi-Nagato pairing could employ wood release. Advent of a world of flowering trees and wood release, wood human technique, showing that wood-style power had been converted into their strength. Nagato in Tobi armor now stood essentially on Madara Uchiha's level at the Valley of the End during the Tailed Beast conflict, or perhaps even higher, since Madara then lacked the Prita path. Besides the 6 paths techniques and wood release, Nagato had the Outer Path demonic statue as a trump card. The Chakra Dragon was an external blend of the Prita and human paths. Up above and down below, the 2 opponents used their ultimate ocular ninjutsu to peer through each other's chakra. When Izayoi-kun and Nagato read each other, both frowned slightly. Their remaining chakra amounts were nearly identical. Nato, having absorbed the 8 Tails, held a slight edge, but it was negligible. If Izayoi-kun summoned another meteor wave, Nagato would need to spend even more chakra to defend. Even if Izayoi-kun had a small chakra advantage, breaking Nagato would remain difficult. A fair one-on-one fight could not settle this. External factors or fatal weaknesses would decide the victor. Izayoi-kun's eyes flicked toward Hidden Rain Village, and Nagato's expression changed instantly. If not for the limited range of all creation of attraction, Nagato would have wanted to pull Izayoi-kun down with gravity right then. He began channeling chakra into the Buddha statue beneath his feet, converting it into a 5-nature compound to prepare another 9-element technique, when his face abruptly altered, his eyes widening. Watching from afar, with Obito Uchiha and Black and White Zetsu tracking the fight with their Mangekyo Sharingan and sensing, they saw Izayoi-kun inhale deeply, raise a hand to cover his eyes for a moment, then let the corner of his mouth curl in a thin, excited smile. "Has it finally arrived? So you weren't going to be suppressed after all," he said. Through Nagato and Obito's chakra perspective and Zetsu's sensing, They saw Izayoi-kun's brain secrete a remarkable surge of chakra toward his eye region. An ocular power that had been flickering like a dying candle flared back to life. Izayoi-kun felt his eyeballs writhe, a crawling, drilling sensation, painful, itchy, yet oddly relieving, making concentrated combat difficult. The state resembled Sasuke's post-transplant recovery when he received Itachi's Manjikyo Sharingan in the original timeline, a recuperative period after a major ocular change. Izayoi-kun lowered his hand, closed his eyes, and pointed at Nagato below, still arrogant in tone. "The outer path demonic statue can stay with you for now, thief. Our battle, no, the battle between the reincarnation eye and the Rinnegan has only just begun." As he finished speaking, Izayoi-kun's figure vanished without warning. Retreat! At the sight of the engagement ending, the Cloud Force and the international spies snapped awake. Orders flew, formations blurred, and they evacuated the Land of Rain at once. The visitor from the moon had fled, leaving only the Akatsuki's leader, one of the superstandard combatants, on the field. If their opponent chose that moment to settle scores, they would all be left behind. Even the proud 4th Raikage withdrew. From now on, the strongest in the ninja world would not be the 5 great shinobi countries. Power had reverted to the age of the ninja god and Asura. Indeed, it was the start of a new era. He could not die yet. He had to ensure Hidden Cloud Village survived this new age. That was his duty as Raikage. Izayoi-kun. 20 kilometers away, Hinata watched him with worry. She didn't know that the 19-year-old Otsutsuki Toneri was Izayoi-kun's clone in others' eyes, but she knew very well that the figure in the sky was his main body. She had been the 4th person to witness Izayoi-kun's brain secreting chakra like that. She had seen it once before, last March. She didn't know the reincarnation eye's exact gestation period, but she knew that while Izayoi-kun was in that state, he would enter a prolonged period of weakness. She feared the main body's condition might affect any wood clone and risk exposing his identity. "The war's over. Let's go back." The Izayoi-kun wood clone offered Hinata a small smile, then led the team and instantly returned to the Land of Fire. Of course, the clone understood Hinata's worry. A shadow clone might have dispersed automatically, but a wood clone is different. It's far more perfect. Unless the main body remotely performs hand signs to dissolve it, a wood clone can be maintained indefinitely as long as it feeds on others' chakra. Even the ability from the reincarnation eye's first gestation could still be used by a wood clone. The main body's recovery wouldn't affect it. Relief flooded Hinata. She watched the wood clone's retreating figure with sparkling eyes, openly admiring and affectionately proud of her boyfriend. If Shino Aburame hadn't been nearby, and if the Izayoi-kun before her were the main body instead of a clone, she would have thrown herself into his arms in that moment. His performance had been astounding. Chapter 123, Reactions from All Sides, the New Ability of the Samsara Eye. As the saying goes, one stone stirs up 1,000 waves. The climactic clash between the moon visitor Otsutsuki Toneri and the leader of the Akatsuki spread faster than the Uchiha clan massacre, the Konoha crush plot, the wood release Shinobi incident, or the attack on the Hidden Cloud Village. Not long after the battle ended, the 4 great ninja villages, who had planted spies after learning that the Hidden Cloud Village planned to bomb the Hidden Rain Village, had already learned the outcome. Within a day, detailed intelligence reached the 5 Kaji in document form. The smaller nations and village states heard the news the next day. Terms like Moon Visitor, Otsutsuki Toneri, Samsara Eye, and Rinnegan, Outer Path Demonic Statue, Meteor Shower, and Wood Release spread to every corner of the shinobi world. The headline that Nagato, the Akatsuki leader, was a descendant of the Whirlpool and Senju clans, who not only possessed the Rinnegan, but had also awakened Wood Release, and who used the tree world advent that the ninja god used to quell chaos, overshadowed any praise for the young Wood Release user Izayoi. Both were Wood Release wielders, but Nagato had become something like the ninja god himself, while Izayoi had only graduated last year and was not on the same level. With Six Paths' vision and the ninja god's Wood Release, Nagato instantly became universally acknowledged as the strongest in the shinobi world, and no one disputed it. His fighting record was terrifying. He founded the Akatsuki. His subordinates included S-rank rogue shinobi from the Great Nations. The strongest AB team from the hidden cloud were like children before him. If not for the moon visitor, Nagato would have already been crowned the ninja god of the new era. Otsutsuki Toneri's words before leaving kept the five great nations awake at night. The strongest power of the new era might not be the ninja god's wood release, but instead a mythic sage's eye. That unmatched force of repulsion and attraction felt like power from another dimension, completely different from the ninjutsu of the five great nations. Worse, there were two people who possessed it, and they were enemies of each other. If just one side had such a power, the five great nations would truly have no peace. Villages could wake up to find themselves turned into ruins or vassals of the hidden rain. Not every super-level fighter is Hashirama Senju. If they get invincible power, some would become a Madara. I didn't expect the mysterious person to actually come from the moon, Onoki said, his fingers trembling as he read the photos his men had risked their lives to take. The photo of the wood human Buddha statue reminded him of Madara's Susanoo, only on a far greater scale. Something that could contend with Hashirama's wood release? Could the legendary Uchiha divine power, Susanoo, actually become this large? What exactly is the Outer Path demonic statue? He muttered. Jiraiya's guess that all possessors of the Sage's Eye were fighting over some treasure suddenly seemed likely. Whatever the Akatsuki leader had kept in reserve during that battle had not been used. The coming era might go wild. Onoki drifted to the window and stared at the sky. Iwagakure cannot remain independent either, he whispered. Such power actually exists? Mei Terumi of the Hidden Mist said in disbelief. With that power, why didn't the ninja god and Madara join forces to rule the world? Mei had never seen true wood release, or the full power of the Sharingan. She had thought wood release's strength lay primarily in group fights and subduing tailed beasts. She hadn't imagined it could produce titanic constructs that could shatter super meteors and wield elemental ninjutsu. With that kind of power, the world's asuras would be unnecessary. Hashirama alone could rule. It astonished her that Konoha, which had two such super-level fighters at the time, did not dominate the shinobi world. Otsutsuki, Jen looked at the intelligence and searched his memory for any impression of that surname. He came up blank. Outer Path demonic statue, thief, samsara eye. Is there some passage connecting to the moon? Are the Otsutsuki an ancient clan who emigrated to the moon because of that statue? Are they related to the Sage of Six Paths? Or are they his enemies? He felt a headache coming on from the speculation. Myths have become reality. The Sage's clan and powers have reappeared. I don't know if that's good or bad for this era. It's only been a few months and the shinobi world has become unrecognizable, Chiyo of the Sand murmured, staring at the reports with exhaustion. She wished the sand could swap places with the mist. If the continent tipped over, she thought, the least they could do was hide. Ebizo spoke calmly. Our hope must lie with Konoha's wood-release shinobi. We can only hope Nagato and that moon visitor remain locked in a stalemate long enough for Izayoi to grow, or for the moon visitor to gain the upper hand. Then the five nations might breathe. Throughout the warring states and recent decades, another elder added, the Otsutsuki haven't interfered with our world, until now, when they've come down from the moon to retrieve the Outer Path demonic statue. To make an ancient clan reappear in the shinobi world, that statue must be terrifying. The Akatsuki are no mere band of mercenaries, Chiyo said. There's something else entirely. That's the sorrow of the weak, Ebizo said, silent afterward. All we can do is wait, hoping tragedy won't fall upon us. In the Hokage's office, Tsunade's focus wasn't just on Nagato awakening wood release. She was thinking about Karin and Izayoi's wood clone sitting across from her and wondering if their bloodlines connected to the sage. Rinnegan, Samsara Eye. They should be different sages' eyes, but the legends only mention the Six Paths sage and his Rinnegan. If the Samsara Eye is the other, why did Toneri call the Six Paths sage the loser and the Rinnegan the loser's eye? Could it be that the Six Paths sage was the loser? His outer path and its statue were taken and brought to the moon by the holder of the Samsara Eye? Tsunade raked her hair with both hands. Why are all these ancient powers popping up now? Izayoi-kun finally smiled. Myths becoming reality might mean our bloodline could reach that level someday. That gives our strength a potential to grow towards such heights, doesn't it? Tsunade and the others fell silent for a beat as Karin stared at Izayoi with new admiration and Shizune looked on respectfully. Tsunade, half dazed, then smiled. Seems the yin seal preserved my youth but not my spirit. I'm getting old. She made a decision. Read the sealing book again. Your strength is the priority now. If anything happens, as Hokage, I'll take responsibility. Then I won't be polite, Hokage-sama. At the Hyuga clan head's residence, Hiyashi Hyuga looked at the photo of Otsutsuki Toneri and murmured, I never expected that lineage to exist. Our Hyuga are descendants of a sage. Is the caged bird curse mark connected to that lineage? Why did the link break? Izayoi's main body was not concerned with the outside reactions. He used the Flying Thunder God technique to return to the underground base beneath the old mansion, opened the barrier, and resumed life there. Only Hinata knew that the Izayoi everyone saw outside was just a wood clone made to absorb chakra for disguise. Like the previous year when Hinata had carefully cared for a blinded Izayoi, she now stayed at his house overnight again, this time with a different closeness. She still sent a shadow clone home to tell her father she was staying, but compared to last year's timidness, Hinata had grown playfully bold, slowly taking on Izayoi's habits. She liked to take photos, sometimes deliberately ugly ones, of Izayoi, collecting Black History snapshots without fear of revenge once he recovered. Curiously, she asked, Izayoi-kun, can your Samsara eye evolve like the Sharingan? Yes, I can feel my eye power strengthening. It should continue evolving, Izayoi said. Hinata blinked and added, the sage's eye, could it really be a bloodline limit of the Whirlpool clan? Izayoi's eyes were still wrapped in white bandages. He only smiled and said nothing. When the rookies or Tsunade and Shizune visited, Hinata sent a shadow clone to interact with them alongside Izayoi's wood clone. When Karin or Hanabi came by, it was the same. If they were alone, Hinata would walk with Izayoi for fresh air or soak in the hot springs and enjoy pressure point massages. The shyness that had marked her last year had thawed. The two of them were natural around each other now. They were in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and the change gave Hinata courage. As a Yamato Nadeshiko type, she considered caring for Izayoi her duty. The relationship had matured into warm tenderness. Izayoi and Hinata both felt they were growing up. Different from the first fetal movement, the second one came quickly. Izayoi had already awakened his ultimate eye technique and was now undergoing a second fetal movement, absorbing chakra secreted by his brain and cells to unlock the next stage of the power of all things. Within a week, the second fetal movement completed. When his brain stopped secreting chakra and his eyes ceased their restless writhing, he removed the bandages and opened them. His samsara eye looked unchanged at first, beautiful, peerless, but the pupils were now surrounded by a faint white corona, deep as black holes and radiating astonishing ocular power. Weak opponents who met his gaze trembled instinctively, feeling as if that look could kill them. Hinata sat with a camera not far away and secretly took photos. Izayoi's expression seemed focused, but in truth his sight had become an invisible net that covered several nations centered on the Land of Fire, and even parts of other great nations. Switching his perspective to something like a god's eye, half the shinobi world fell within Izayoi's monitoring range. Switching back to first person, his gaze pierced the underground base, rock, atmosphere, and reached out to the moon. He could see the ruined city, the moon's artificial sun, the palace, and the giant samsara eye inside it. And Otsutsuki Toneri, 13 years old and not yet in the 15 to 17 growth phase, whose chakra was still less than Uzumaki Naruto's and who lived dependent on wireless puppetry for daily life. Everything was visible to Izayoi. What absurdly long-distance sight and penetration, he murmured, slightly clicking his tongue. The second fetal movement enhanced basic abilities in ways that surprised even him. The giant samsara eye fused all the Byakugan of the Otsutsuki clan's branch families and perhaps even some main branch Byakugan. Yet Izayoi, with only his second fetal movement, could almost monitor the entire shinobi world. If the third fetal movement, the final evolution, came, his samsara eye might rival or surpass the giant one. Clearly, his samsara eye was incomparable to Toneri's, which had been dispersed by a single punch. Was it his own eyes, or the influence of the sage's eye? red. Izayoi suspected the latter had contributed massively. The Rinnegan is a fusion of two extremes. Izayoi's eyes were a fusion of three. He'd completed the second fetal movement while Toneri hadn't even entered his growth phase. With the second fetal movement came three new abilities in addition to the enhanced sight. The first was yin-yang release. Like ceiling techniques, yin-yang release has a sky-high ceiling and a low floor. If you don't know how to use it, you might only make black receivers like Naruto and Obito. But if you can control it, you can integrate sage techniques and all the ultimate nature transformations into it, creating the strongest ninjutsu below true bloodline powers, the truth-seeking ball. With further mastery, one could reproduce creation like the six-path sage. The sage had truth-seeking balls even after death due to yin-yang release and his six paths technique. Izayoi had laid one of the foundations. Given his transmigrator advantage and potential, reincarnation eye chakra mode and truth-seeking balls could one day be within reach. The other two abilities were the mental orb and the chakra light orb. The mental orb corresponded to the Rinnegan's human path. It could read thoughts and project memories like a crystal ball, and if implanted, could control a target's will and actions. Unlike the human path, the mental orb could control opponents' behavior directly. The human path, by contrast, counters soul-based techniques and is immune to genjutsu. If an enemy used spirit techniques, the mental orb would be at risk. The chakra light orb corresponded to the Preta path. While similar to the Preta path in concept, it had its own advantages. The Preta path can form a light shield that absorbs incoming ninjutsu and restores chakra by touch. Izayoi's chakra light orb couldn't absorb attacks from all directions at once. Instead, he condensed a green orb in his hand and fired it like a beam. The orb could devour the ninjutsu in front of it, penetrate an enemy's body, and drain chakra instantly. After absorbing chakra, the orb could return to restore Izayoi's own reserves, or detonate as a bomb. The stronger the enemy's chakra, the more powerful the explosion. Drained Jinchuriki made the orb's destructive potential even greater, even surpassing a tailed beast ball. All three new abilities were chiefly supportive. Add to them his repulsions, attraction power, and wireless puppets, plus an exclusive super ultimate attack that had not yet reached dimensional reduction capability, and Izayoi was now an all-around warrior with balanced offense and defense and maximized support and troop generation. A smile creased his lips at the thought. Hinata leaned closer, eyes bright. Izayoi-kun, are you feeling your new abilities? Her blush pulled him from thought. He returned her mischievous grin. Want to see? She fumbled a little but nodded. Yes, let's watch a movie together. Izayoi turned off the lights, drew Hinata into his arms, and they lay down. A green light tore through the dark and illuminated them like a firefly's glow. Izayoi held the light orb in his free hand. Inside it, scenes flickered, memories. Hinata's eyes widened when she recognized the images. Izayoi-kun, this is my memory, he said, smiling. He pinched her cheek playfully. Don't talk, just watch. She obeyed, leaning into him as slides of their past played. The snowy night when they first met at 3, their reunion at the academy at 6, promises to train together, climbing trees and walking on water, taijutsu duels, picnics, chasing each other in snowman suits. Watching themselves grow inside the crystal, Hinata grew thoughtful. Izayoi, who had intended to tease her with the little film, found the mood change him. He simply held her and watched, contentment spreading across his face. Chapter 124. Nagato, the child of prophecy, the savior who protects the world, thanks to the silent, forgotten leader. During the week, Izanami waited for the reincarnation eye to finish its evolution. The uproar over the Akatsuki's leader and the moon visitor only grew louder. Hidden Rain Village, the Akatsuki's stronghold, didn't become a forbidden zone. It became the hottest destination in the shinobi world. People deliberately came into the rain to see the territory that had once belonged to the so-called demigod, now governed by the new era's god of shinobi. Nagato's renown swelled. After days of simmering rumor and awe, many began calling him the god of shinobi of the new age. The moon visitor was an outsider. Nagato was one of their own. He led Akatsuki, yes, but he also led Hidden Rain Village. Ordinary people preferred that the Outer Path demonic statue remain in familiar hands, rather than in those of a stranger from the moon. If a war came, it would be between the five great nations, not their concern. So they embraced Nagato as a hero, a savior who would protect the world. Smaller countries discreetly sent envoys to submit to the Lord of the Land of Rain. The Land of Rain's lord woke one morning stunned. When had his military base switched hands? And why had the demigod become the god of Shinobi? What a spectacular turn of fortune. Jiraiya, who had been quietly traveling the lands gathering intelligence about the moon visitor, was also surprised and relieved. Reading the reports in his hands, he allowed himself a laugh. "So that's it," he muttered. "This is what you meant when you said you lacked experience, Nagato. The Outer Path demonic statue, the moon visitor, the reincarnation eye. Is that why you wanted to collect the tailed beasts, to fight the sage's descendants from the moon and protect the shinobi world? Nagato, you truly are the child of prophecy." A weight lifted from Jiraiya's heart. Whatever extremes his pupil seemed to have embraced, in the old man's eyes, Nagato was still the same, determined to make peace and end war. Collecting the tailed beasts might not have been an exercise in domination, but a way to guard the Outer Path demonic statue and stand against the Otsutsuki. With Nagato's Rinnegan and Wood release and his current strength, he didn't need the beasts. They were toys beside him. The problem, Jiraiya thought, was that the five great nations lacked understanding of the Rinnegan, the reincarnation eye, and the moon's artifacts. If Otsutsuki Toneri hadn't revealed himself and his puppet legion, no one would have believed the moon actually hid descendants of the sage. Toneri's actions branded him a villain, an unscrupulous outsider, and that made Akatsuki look tame in comparison. No wonder the pendulum swung the other way. The bounties for Tendo Pain and Sasori of the Red Sand were quietly pulled, and a massive joint bounty of 1.5 billion ryo was posted for Otsutsuki Toneri. That sum would make a daimyo ache, clearly paid by multiple nations united against a common enemy. Inside Hidden Rain Village, Akatsuki members sat in a meeting and stared in disbelief. A few days ago, they were S-rank rogue shinobi, terrorists forced to hide their identities. Now their leader had become the world's savior, and they were suddenly perceived as capable subordinates of a hero. Even Kakuzu, who had been a villain most of his life, felt disoriented by the sudden shift. "It's just politics," Black Zetsu said flatly. "It suits them." "People have forgotten the power of the god of shinobi and the shinobi asura after decades," Sasori said from within Hiruko, his tone sardonic. "Let them have a taste of a super-standard battle. The high officials must be losing sleep now." "We are a rogue organization," someone else added. "Those rulers are terrified of our counterstrike. They'll fan the flames from behind, polishing our image so they can use it later." Deidara and Hidan predictably chimed in with brash remarks. Kisame teased Tendo Pain for still using a puppet to speak for him. The dozen or so members regarded one another with a mix of suspicion and reluctant pride, until a young, calm voice cut through the chatter. Nagato stepped from the shadows, looking like a serious, handsome teenager. His voice was gentle, almost at odds with the mythic gravity of Tendo Pain's persona. "I apologize, my body was unwell. I couldn't meet you in my main body before." The room fell silent, not because he had appeared, but because of that gentle tone. He put a hand on Tendo Pain's shoulder. "In truth, I am not the leader of Akatsuki. Tendo Pain is." Confusion flickered across faces. "What do you mean?" "Tendo Pain's real name was Yahiko. He was Konan's and my best friend, and he founded Akatsuki. He's dead, but in his name I will create a new world without war, where people's dreams can come true. Remember, Pain is still the leader of Akatsuki." The members felt Nagato's devotion to Yahiko and Konan, and respect softened their confusion. Nagato then placed several rings on the table, the distinctive Akatsuki rings. Deidara scoffed, wondering why they needed more rings. Nagato answered with a calm, weighty explanation. "These are new rings I made using the Rinnegan and Wood release," he said. "I've engraved a summoning formula into them. Put them on. If nothing unexpected happens, Otsutsuki Toneri's reincarnation eye has likely completed its evolution." The room froze. "What? A sage's eye can evolve like the Sharingan?" Kisame asked. Nagato shook his head. "I don't know if it evolves the same way, but Toneri's eye appeared to suddenly flood him with powerful chakra that prevented him from using his ocular techniques temporarily. His reincarnation eye is a kind of sage's eye. It has repulsion and attraction, but it lacks the Rinnegan's full six paths techniques and yin-yang release. It's not the complete power of Tendo Pain. Now it seems not that Toneri lacks those abilities, but that he has not yet awakened them. When he said the last line, his expression darkened, not with fear of Toneri, but with concern for Uchiha Madara. Nagato realized something alarming. The six paths techniques and yin-yang release might not be unique Rinnegan gifts, but inherent functions that could develop in a sage's eye. If a sage's eye could evolve elsewhere, why had his own Rinnegan not done the same? Why had its advanced abilities been supplied by others? A thought formed. Either Madara himself obtained these abilities by some means, or he found the sage's ruins and extracted them. The Uchiha body lacked the vitality of the Uzumaki and Senju. Even with transplanted Hashirama cells and wood release, an Uchiha could not naturally open the Rinnegan's full power. Madara might have transplanted the Rinnegan into someone and planned to bestow the six paths powers later, possibly timing it with the outer path demonic statue. If so, the statue was not simply a device for sealing the tailed beasts. The moon had protected it for a reason, and Madara's involvement suggested deeper schemes. Nagato's suspicion of Madara climbed to its peak. Suddenly, the tailed beast recovery plan felt dangerously naive. If Madara and Black Zetsu were enemies, they might have contingencies in place to use the statue or abandon those who assisted them once their goals were reached. Nagato kept those thoughts from Konan. Inside, his greatest enemy was no longer the moon visitor. It was Uchiha Madara. The Akatsuki members, unaware of Nagato's private alarm, relaxed at his plan. So if that fellow completes his evolution, he'll become more formidable, Sasori said. Next time he appears, the strongest among his puppets will not be Danzo Shimura, but Pain's six paths. That's right, Nagato nodded. Even if his reincarnation eye finishes evolving, he should still be unable to defeat me outright. If he wants the outer path demonic statue, he'll have to exhaust all means to weaken Akatsuki. His chances of hunting you are high. He could instigate a Shinobi world war or order the cloud to bomb the rain. I'm recovered to my peak, Nagato continued. I've also enhanced Tendo Pain and removed its range limitations. If you're in danger, infuse chakra into the ring, and the summoning formula will call Pain six paths. He can, in turn, summon me. Act separately if needed. You won't fear being targets. The room brightened. The rings were fitted to their fingers, and with the summoning safeguard in place, their fears of being hunted dissolved. Plans to abandon Akatsuki were shelved. The meeting ended, and the members dispersed. Only Nagato, Tendo Pain, and Konan remained in the conference room. Nagato smiled at Konan. There'll be many visitors to Hidden Rain Village these days. You've done well. Don't worry about village matters. I'll have Pain's six paths handle them. Konan smiled back, reassured. Nagato had recovered, and being hailed, however politically, as a hero reminded her of their original purpose. Perhaps they hadn't been so wrong after all. After Konan and Tendo Pain left, Nagato sat alone and spoke in a low voice. Come out. A fist-sized black distortion opened on the right side seat. Uchiha Obito stepped out and took a stone chair. Black Zetsu, who had been elsewhere, returned from the floor. Nagato turned to him. Have you found the passage to the moon? White Zetsu shook his head. The passage would have a chakra-concealing seal. He also has the Flying Thunder God technique. He wouldn't leave traces or scent. Nagato nodded, then faced Obito. Where did you get your four red yang formation? From a whirlpool scroll, Konoha's sealing library, or the Cloud's archives? If you need whirlpool sealing techniques, I can fetch them, Obito said coolly. Your wood release, combined with whirlpool sealing and the Rinnegan's Preta path, can achieve orthodox wood-type effects. Nagato asked plainly, I need more Hashirama cells. Can you get them? The truth was, after wearing Tobi's armor and using Tree World Advent and the Wood Human technique, Nagato had learned how terrifying Hashirama's power could be. Even his strongest Shinra Tensei could not match Senju Hashirama. He wanted more cells to strengthen his wood release. Obito paused. He had expected other motives. Under his mask, the Sharingan regarded Black Zetsu as if exchanging a look. Then Obito spoke slowly. After creating White Zetsu, I don't have many Hashirama cells left, but I do know someone who still has quite a few. Storm released Judgment. The shout rolled across the training grounds of Izanami's mansion. A blinding beam of light tore through the air, slammed into the transparent barrier wall, then shifted into a razor-thin line. It carved through the raised circular platform and cleaved Izanami's wood clone in two. When the storm of light faded, the barrier melted away, and the badly damaged platform slowly descended. Not bad, not bad. You've mastered storm release. Judgment very quickly. Your Sharingan development is progressing well, Izanami praised, clapping. Tch, Sasuke pouted, a little windblown and disheveled, but pleased. It had only been a wood clone, and he had timed the attack cleverly, yet after so many years he'd finally bested Izanami, even if only once. It still took a lot to take down one of your clones. Defeating one of my wood clones is impressive, Izanami admitted. His clone had held back too. Sasuke's grin grew eager. Is my current power enough to kill that man? He asked, chest swelling with the usual arrogance. Izanami's expression sobered. Difficult. He set aside the praise and began to explain Itachi's true strength. From the intelligence the village has gathered, the Mangekyo Sharingan grants far greater perception and copying than the three Tomo. Its genjutsu is qualitatively superior. It can even control tailed beasts and their jinchuriki. That is only the baseline. The Mangekyo's legend comes from the unique, powerful abilities that reside in each eye. Once a user masters those, they can awaken a third hidden power, the Susanoo. That's the reason Uchiha Madara could rival Senju Hashirama. Susanoo? Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Before he could ask, Izanami continued, smiling. You know about the peak battle a few days ago, right? Sasuke nodded. The End Valley had been on everyone's lips. People from all over had come to see the scarred battlefield, just as they had once gone to view the stone statues. The Uchiha Susanoo is called a godly power. Once it's seen, death is hard to escape, Izanami said. In that peak battle, Susanoo corresponds to the wood golem Buddha statue. Sasuke's pupils tightened. You mean, you're serious? The Mangekyo can reach that level? Yes, if you have enough ocular power, Izanami said simply. Wood release draws from yang chakra, more yang, stronger wood. I, with sufficient chakra and mastery of form transformation, could produce wood golem Buddha statues of that scale. In contrast, Susanoo is a manifestation of yin chakra. The stronger your yin, the more complete and larger the giant you can form. If your yin chakra is vast, you could condense a Susanoo greater than the wood Buddha statue. If it's weak, you might only form a skeleton or a half-body Susanoo. There are stages. Only the full body form is the true Susanoo. Sasuke's face fell slightly. So that's why he wanted the eternal Mangekyo. He wanted unending ocular power, the way Madara did, to use a true Susanoo that could stand against the ninja god. Perhaps, Izanami allowed, not ready to tell him everything. Sasuke bristled. So I have to awaken the Mangekyo before I can get revenge on him? Not necessarily, Izanami said. Itachi awakened his Mangekyo when you were 7. Without Hashirama cells grafted in, the Mangekyo's power fades with use. He might not even be able to sustain a half-body Susanoo now. What remains dangerous are his Mangekyo Genjutsu and the unique techniques of each eye. If you learn Sage Technique at Ryuchi Cave, or develop Dust Release by mastering 3 fused nature transformations, you could contend with him. Master both and you'll be even safer, Izanami added. Sasuke's jaw set. Teach me Dust Release. I'm busy. You should go learn Sage Technique from Orochimaru at Ryuchi Cave, Izanami replied, rolling his eyes. He stopped mid-sentence and his brow lifted. What's wrong? Sasuke asked. My wood clone just sent a message. Something's happened on Orochimaru's side. I need to check it out, Izanami said, and vanished. Sasuke's eyes widened. Flying Thunder God Technique, Izanami. The peak battle had put the Rinnegan, Reincarnation Eye, Wood Release, and Flying Thunder God Technique in the spotlight. Sasuke recognized Izanami's sudden disappearance as space-time ninjutsu. He did not suspect Izanami was Otsutsuki Toneri. He only knew Izanami had the privilege of viewing the Book of Sealing, but he was stunned at Izanami's rapid mastery. To have cultivated not only multiple elemental techniques, but also the Flying Thunder God so quickly? Such terrifying talent. Underground in a base in the land of rice fields, Orochimaru and Yakushi Kabuto were researching the white Zetsu cells covering Orochimaru's body when 3 figures materialized. Orochimaru stared hardest at the red-haired youth in the center and forced out a rasping laugh. I never thought. Someone as insignificant as me would draw the true leader of the Akatsuki. I'm honored. Lord Orochimaru, you cannot escape, White Zetsu chimed playfully. The 6 paths of pain have already set the 4 red yang formation outside. Unless you can use the Flying Thunder God technique, you might as well surrender. Orochimaru fell silent, then looked at Nagato, who seemed only a little older than before, and sighed. He saw no chance of escape. If Ryuchi Cave didn't summon him with reverse summoning, facing Nagato, the ninja god of the new era, offered no hope. If Nagato had used space-time ninjutsu to appear, the Akatsuki's resources were deeper than Orochimaru had imagined. Nagato spoke gently. Lord Orochimaru, according to Akatsuki rules, traitors are killed and their rings retrieved. But for the sake of Master Jiraiya, if you hand over the Hashirama cells you possess, I will spare your life. If Tendo Pain had been present, Orochimaru would have been killed outright. Nagato's offer was the reason his main body had come. He alone could make such a promise. Orochimaru blinked with surprise at such mercy from the Akatsuki's leader. With a wary smile, he bargained. If you let my subordinates go first, I'll give them to you. Nagato's expression stayed calm. My Rinnegan has the human path, which can extract a soul and read the mind, and the Shindo, which can turn a target into a puppet and force them to perform summons. If you hide the cells in a summoning world, I can still kill you and take them from your corpse. Orochimaru broke into a cold sweat. As long as Kabuto lived, he clung to the hope of returning. He still had contingencies. He could rely on Anko's heavenly curse mark and other secrets, but being able to have his soul plucked and read by the Rinnegan terrified him. Black Zetsu's hoarse voice cut in. This legendary Sannin still hides unknown secrets. Leader, why don't we just search his soul? White Zetsu suggested with a smile. Nagato returned his attention to Orochimaru. Lord Orochimaru, what will you choose? A choice? Orochimaru's mind raced. Then a strange voice made the decision for him. A branch sprouted at his side and immediately took shape. Izanami, you are. Nagato narrowed his eyes at the black-haired young man. White Zetsu answered first. Konoha's wood-release ninja, Izanami. Izanami-kun. Orochimaru, usually composed, betrayed rare emotion, like a drowning man seeing a savior. You came for me? Izanami stood tall, amused. Lord Orochimaru, you looked frightened. Heh, you flatter me, Izanami-kun, Orochimaru laughed. Besides you and Otsutsuki Toneri, facing this ninja god of the new era would have me quaking. So you passed the 4 red yang formation using wood release? Nagato said, understanding dawning. He examined Izanami's presence and nodded. A wood clone with such chakra, as expected of a true wood release user. It is an honor to receive praise from the savior, Izanami replied, sarcastic smile in place. Nagato blinked. If I remember correctly, Lord Orochimaru is a Konoha S-rank missing nin. Why would you, a future 6th Hokage, be in contact with a missing nin? Is his missing 9 status false? Missing nin aren't always unforgivable, Izanami said. Lord Orochimaru is a rare genius scientist, 1 in 1,000 years. He cannot be killed by you. Orochimaru couldn't hide his surprise. Izanami's tone suggested future pardon. Nagato, unpersuaded by a clone and still firm, repeated, Hand over the Hashirama cells and I will spare you. That is my promise. Orochimaru, shivering with a new resolve, reached for the one treasure he might use to sever ties with the Akatsuki. Before he could comply, Izanami tilted his head and said, Hashirama cells? Aren't there plenty right beside you? All eyes turned to the silent figure who had watched the whole time, Uchiha Obito. Izanami's gaze flicked to him with a playful smile. Half his body is made of Hashirama cells. Taking a few tubes from him would raise your wood release by several levels. Right, Uchiha? Obito. Nagato's expression shifted to surprise. Black and white Zetsu tensed. Obito himself stared, utterly speechless. Chapter 126. You see, isn't this urgent? An eerie silence fell over the laboratory. All eyes were fixed on Uchiha Obito, who had been watching the scene unfold in stunned silence. Nagato turned to him, staring with a strange intensity. For the first time, whether he possessed Hashirama cells seemed less important. Compared to the slight boost from wood release, Nagato wanted to know the truth about Uchiha Madara more than anything. If Nagato had glanced at Black Zetsu then, he might have found his answer. Black Zetsu's expression, in particular, was not the same as before, calm and inscrutable as ever, but his attention was locked on Izanami's mocking smile. White Zetsu, by contrast, looked shocked, eyes wide with disbelief, as if he hadn't expected anyone else to recognize Uchiha Obito's true identity. Only Orochimaru and Yakushi Kabuto, who didn't yet know Obito was impersonating Madara, looked at him with genuine surprise. Orochimaru even blurted out, "There's another living Uchiha besides Sasuke and Itachi? Is that what made that space-time ninjutsu just now possible? A unique ocular technique from the Mangekyo Sharingan?" Obito didn't answer. He still hadn't fully recovered from the shock. If anyone present could read emotions, they would have seen his feelings swinging wildly, his mind in chaos. He was wearing a mask, though. Otherwise, his expression would have stripped away any remaining aura of mystery and made Nagato look upon him with contempt rather than caution. Seeing Obito's silence only deepened Nagato's suspicion. "Madara," he asked evenly, "what's going on? Who is Uchiha Obito?" Black Zetsu cursed silently. "Idiot, why did you freeze at the sound of your real name? That was almost as good as confessing. Where was the nerve that started the Nine Tails incident and manipulated the hidden mist?" "What? Uchiha Madara?" Orochimaru and Kabuto flinched at Nagato's address and instinctively took a step back. Orochimaru's voice was full of disbelief. "Wasn't that Shinobi Asura killed by the first Hokage at the Valley of the End?" They both looked at Izanami, wondering why he had called the other man Uchiha Obito. Obito finally steadied himself and, slipping into Uchiha Madara's voice, praised, "So you sensed Hashirama cells in me and detected my Sharingan as well. As expected of a Senju descendant who awakened true wood release. Excellent. You remind me of Hashirama in his youth. He didn't seem to have heard the name Uchiha Obito, nor did he stress his role as Madara, but his words left room for interpretation. Just then, Izanami suddenly and dramatically clapped his hands. Good acting. Blue-white lightning crackled between Izanami's palms as he gave Obito a thumbs up. Kakashi would have exclaimed at this and plunged his Chidori into Rin Nohara's heart. He'd give you a thumbs up for sure. Boom. Those words were a fuse. The memory of Kakashi piercing Rin flashed through Obito's mind like a lightning strike. It was the same scene he had been forced to watch, his two Tomoe Sharingan violently evolving into the Manjikyo, and a surge of chakra burst from him uncontrollably. Black Zetsu covered his face, thinking it was over. Nagato, by contrast, allowed a faint smile. A huge weight seemed to lift from his chest. Whether he got Hashirama cells now no longer mattered. His inner torment was gone. In Nagato's eyes, the man who had acted like a Shinobi Asura for decades suddenly shrank into a cowardly trickster who dared not reveal his true face. Whatever the origin of the Six Paths technique and yin-yang release that Obito displayed, the only truly dangerous thing about him seemed to be the intangible space-time ability. The real enemy, Nagato concluded, was the mastermind who gave him those powers, and that person might be the true Uchiha Madara or a descendant of the Sage of Six Paths. Obito and Black Zetsu were merely pawns. Even if there were still unknown enemies, Nagato wasn't shaken. He was convinced the mastermind was already dead. Whatever brought these two here, aside from the Outer Path demonic statue, was likely a plan to use him for reincarnation, Tensei no Jutsu. That person must have left a contingency somewhere on or within him, perhaps tied to his Rinnegan, that would force Nagato to perform reincarnation if triggered. But Nagato had already regained his strength, and the two had not acted. Looking at the conditions for reincarnation, which required seeing the corpse clearly to summon the soul, Nagato guessed the contingency needed a key, some token in the hands of Obito or Black Zetsu. He wanted to rip off his calm facade and strike at them, but reason and duty, to Konan and Yahiko's dream, kept him in place. Exposing himself now would only hand his enemies the initiative, so he restrained himself. Izanami pointed at the exposed, shaken Obito with a smug "see" and smiled at Orochimaru. "See, he's flustered." Orochimaru's interest was piqued. "Now I remember, Minato had 3 students. Besides Kakashi, there was an Uchiha who died in the Great Ninja War, whose body was never recovered, so it was you." Kabuto peered at Obito's mask and chimed in. "Kakashi's Sharingan is his left eye, and this mask only has a hole for the right. It lines up perfectly." White Zetsu watched with a twinge of pity. If Obito's secret was out, he would no longer have a place in Akatsuki. Nagato and Itachi would lose any reason to fear him. Even if Nagato didn't expel him, Obito would have no agency in the organization. If the news spread, his martyr status in Konoha would be torn down. If people discovered he'd engineered the Nine Tails incident, his grave might be desecrated. Except for Kakashi, no one would care about him anymore. Black Zetsu watched Nagato closely, debating whether to attempt mental possession. His sensing probed and found something. He eventually let the idea go and remained hidden. At the same time, Obito, whose self-image had just cracked, suddenly composed himself. He did not attack Izanami. After all, that was only a wood clone. Realizing his identity had been exposed, he stopped hiding and demanded, "How did you find out? And why are you so sure?" It was a question that cut to Obito's core. They were from different eras. When Obito caused the Nine Tails incident, Izanami would have only been a child. Even Obito's closest teachers hadn't known his identity. How could Izanami be so certain? "I'm not blind," Izanami replied, looking at Obito as if he were foolish. "When I was in the academy, you wandered Konoha sometimes. Every year on November 15th, you'd go to the cemetery to pay respects to Rin Nohara. Your mask only shows your right eye. Those are obvious clues. Anyone not completely foolish, by digging into Rin's relationship with Kakashi, could guess who you were." Obito fell silent. Black Zetsu swore again at such careless exposure. Nagato and the others now had confirmation. "To have discovered that at such an age and without me noticing, your wood release must have awakened very early," Nagato said, forced admiration in his voice. The atmosphere crackled. Orochimaru and Kabuto both fell into serious silence behind Izanami, watching Nagato, Obito, and the others. Nagato ignored them and asked Obito directly, "Do you have anything to say? I'll explain. First, take these people down and get what you want." Obito finished by unleashing a Manjikyo Genjutsu aimed at Orochimaru. Before it could take hold, Izanami smiled and spoke a jutsu name that changed everyone's faces. "Wood Release, Tree World Advent." A thunderous roar filled the underground base, and the ground trembled. Roots thicker than a dozen men, like ancient trunks, burst up from below, tearing through the floor and walls. The facility was swallowed in a rushing tide of green. Even the four panes maintaining the red-yang formation above felt the violent upheaval. Towering trees shot up, branches and leaves sprouting as if they'd been grown for decades in an instant. The pane's feet sprouted wooden branches, forcing them to disrupt the barrier and resort to body flicker to dodge the entangling vines. The base lay under the plains of the land of rice fields, and from a distance the grasslands now looked like a living forest. Giant green serpents of wood rising from the earth like tailed beasts, straightening into towering trunks. When the quake subsided, the plain had, inexplicably, become an oasis, a forest so vast it might be mistaken for a fire country woodland. Nagato, who had never been to Konoha's death forest, stared at the mountain-like trees and couldn't help but marvel. Such powerful yang chakra. To have that at this age, this clansman may be like me. From a treetop, Black Zetsu's form appeared. White Zetsu, sensing the forest chakra, exclaimed, "Such wood release! If Toby hadn't been borrowing the leader's yang chakra, he wouldn't have been anywhere near this level." Black Zetsu did not speak, but his mind had dropped into a spiral of worry. The ninja world had changed in just months. He had assumed Otsutsuki Toneri was merely an implant recipient of the sage's eye like Nagato, but Toneri seemed a true awakener, perhaps comparable to Uchiha Madara. Black Zetsu had not watched Otsutsuki Hamura use whatever power the reincarnation eye possessed, so he could not judge its full capability. Still, Toneri showed both attractive and repulsive forces, and that evolution could rival the Rinnegan's 6 paths. If the reincarnation eye could evolve further and unlock unique ocular ninjutsu like Madara's, Nagato wouldn't stand a chance. That was manageable, Black Zetsu thought. He could use Toneri to weaken Nagato or have Obito pull off a Kamui rescue. The reincarnation eye could not summon the outer path demonic statue, and as long as the Rinnegan remained in his control, Black Zetsu believed he could revive Madara using the statue and the Hashirama material he held. A Prime-Age Madara with wood release, the Sharingan, and the Rinnegan would overshadow both Toneri and Izanami. But Nagato's vigilance, his earlier sense that Nagato was guarding against him, meant Black Zetsu needed another contingency. For now, though, Obito's exposure was the immediate problem. Even though Black Zetsu was a construct of yin-yang release, He felt a headache at the twist of events. Losing the initiative was one thing, but Obito being expelled from Akatsuki would make everything worse. This idiot, Black Zetsu thought, muttering in his head, and used the ephemeral technique to sink into the shadows and rendezvous with Obito and Nagato. Chapter 127, Showdown. Uchiha Obito was in a foul mood. He had come merely to watch the show, curious to see how Nagato would handle Orochimaru. Izanami's sudden appearance had piqued his interest even more, but before he could even take another bite of melon, he'd become the center of attention. The persona of Uchiha Madara, which had always worked for him and, combined with Kamui, let him bluff Nagato and Itachi into hesitation, had been ruthlessly exposed. Because he visited Rin's grave every year, and because he'd spent time in Konoha watching the promising Uchiha Itachi the year the clan was wiped out, someone had discovered his weakness. The one who found it was, astonishingly, a kid who was still in the academy back then. The realization stung Obito. This boy, with a rational mind, a genuine would-release bloodline limit, and the chakra and talent to create S-rank ninjutsu, might be more terrifying than Nagato or even Otsutsuki Toneri. Before Obito could think further, a figure appeared in front of him. Nagato smiled, an expression at odds with his usual solemn, wary gaze. "How do you plan to explain yourself?" "Madara no, Uchiha Obito," he said. "Let's go inside and talk." Before Black and White Zetsu could react, Obito activated Kamui and opened a fist-sized void, drawing Nagato and himself inside. Nagato offered no resistance and let the spatial jutsu pull him in. Back in the world, Black Zetsu, fused with soil and plants, finally lost his composure. Obito wouldn't tell Nagato the whole of Lord Madara's plan, would he? White Zetsu fretted. "These two pieces have both gone out of control," Black Zetsu said in a low voice, hardening his resolve to prepare a contingency. Nagato looked around the dim Kamui dimension, an expanse formed of tall rock pillars, and studied Obito with interest. "You can't phase through things in here, can you?" he asked. "You brought me in knowing that. Aren't you afraid I'll kill you?" "Killing me would be meaningless," Obito replied, sitting cross-legged on the stone. He kept his face indifferent, but had Izanagi ready to flick on at any moment. "I hope your questions will satisfy me." Nagato's tone was deliberately ambiguous. He didn't move, which secretly relieved Obito. As long as Nagato didn't strike, Obito's true power would remain hidden, and the man still treated his eye technique with some caution. If he could placate Nagato now, perhaps the man wouldn't cut ties, and Obito, along with Black and White Zetsu, could stay in Akatsuki. Obito gathered his thoughts. "Do you remember what we talked about the first time we met?" Nagato's mind drifted back to that rainy day years ago, when Yahiko was still alive and their ideals had not yet been crushed. His eyes cooled, the memory sharpening his features. "And if I do remember?" he asked, flatly. Obito, unaware that Nagato already suspected much more than he let on, played his part. "I said then that where there is light, there must be shadow. So long as winners exist, losers will follow. A peace protected selfishly will breed war. If you try to protect love, hatred will be born. It's an unbreakable chain. Even Senju Hashirama, with his godlike power, cannot sever that causality." He tapped Nagato's eyes with a pointed look. "But your Rinnegan can." Nagato touched his own eyes, then fixed Obito with a hard stare. "Outer Path demonic statue," he said. "Right." Obito leaned forward. "Do you want to know why Otsutsuki Toneri came for the Outer Path demonic statue?" Nagato's pupils narrowed. Why? It was the question Nagato had been burning to ask. Not just him. The whole Shinobi world would have wanted to know. Something capable of making two wielders of the Sage's Eye contend over it had to be extraordinary. All Nagato knew was that the Outer Path demonic statue could seal tailed beasts and unleash a chakra dragon that incinerated anything it touched. It didn't seem worth the centuries a clan had left their home and migrated to the moon, or the risk of exposing their origins and sparking war. Obito had more knowledge than he had let on. He raised a finger and spoke in a slow, deliberate tone, as if reciting scripture. "Everything will become one with me, the perfect being that unifies all." Nagato frowned and repeated the words inwardly. "The perfect being that unifies all? You mean the demonic statue would absorb the chakra of the nine-tailed beasts, but what does the beginning mean?" Obito's next sentence hit him like a strike. "What is a Jinchuriki?" Nagato's eyes widened. "You mean Yes, Obito said. The Outer Path demonic statue is another name for the 10 tails. He went on, calmly. The Uchiha have an heirloom stone tablet. The Sage of Six Paths wrote secrets on it that only those with extraordinary ocular power can decipher. From that tablet, I learned the true nature of the demonic statue and the hidden techniques of the Rinnegan. Our clan's role, our mission, was to guide those who wield the Rinnegan. He pointed at Nagato. Once the demonic statue absorbs the chakra of the 9-tailed beasts, it becomes the 10 tails again, a being of overwhelming might. The 10 tails tailed beast ball would be a strategic force the shinobi world could not resist, a weapon that could secure peace for you. Obito spread his hands, excitement coloring his words. More than that, the 10 tails can sever causality. If you become its Jinchuriki, you would possess the strongest chakra and cast a genjutsu across the entire world. Everyone would sleep in a dream world where every longing is fulfilled. There would be only winners, no losers, only peace, no war, only love, no hatred. Chapter 128, The Storm of a New Era, The Truth of the World. Nagato frowned as he looked at Obito, who seemed to have gone mad. Are you out of your mind? To put everyone to sleep forever in an illusion, how is that different from destroying all of humanity? The difference is that in a dream, you die happy, Obito snapped back. Your life feels complete. Every wish is fulfilled. There is no exhaustion, no betrayal, no pain or illness. The other is brutal death, enslavement by the strong, betrayal by those close to you, disease. He gestured as if weighing the options. Human and shinobi lifespans are so short. Rather than letting them endure birth, old age, sickness, and the darkness of the world, wouldn't it be kinder to let them spend a long time in a beautiful dream and then die without pain? Nagato watched him in silence, then suddenly sneered. Coward! Don't you want to see Yahiko again? Obito shot back, wounded. Of course I do. Nagato stared into the black depths of the Kamui dimension as if he could see the three boys growing up. For years I've dreamt of Yahiko every night, he said quietly. I dream he didn't die, that he changes the world, that he fulfills his ideals, ends war, brings lasting peace to the shinobi world, and is hailed as a savior. But when I wake up, it all vanishes. The purple Rinnegan looked down on Obito. Nagato continued evenly. Even an eternal dream can't change one thing. The Yahiko in that dream is fake. But the will Yahiko left behind is real. Nagato clenched his fist, resolve hardening his face. If mutual understanding cannot bring peace, then I will inherit Yahiko's original ideals. With absolute power, I will eliminate endless war and make everyone live in peace under strict control. And when you die, Obito said softly, even the gods of shinobi cannot grant eternal life. What then? When you die, the world will return to the way it was. War will ignite again. When I die, I'll leave the Outer Path demonic statue to every country so they can all use its power to balance one another, Nagato answered. As long as every nation has access to the Outer Path's power, none will dare start trouble. Suit yourself, Obito snorted. The Uchiha's duty is to correctly guide the holder of the Rinnegan. If your method is wrong, the Six Paths Apple residing in you will naturally choose the next successor. Then the stone tablet will prove itself right. Nagato raised an eyebrow. Where is this Uchiha stone tablet? In Konoha, buried underground. You can't see it, Obito sneered as if he had read Nagato's thoughts. Only the owner of the Mangekyo Sharingan can decipher it. It's the legacy and duty of the messengers of the gods. You, who hold the Rinnegan, must grow from weakness to strength and experience life's trials. You cannot evolve the way the owner of that reincarnation eye can. And the eyes that evolve like that cannot summon the Outer Path demonic statue, nor are they destined to become 10 Tails Jinchuriki. Those eyes are failures. Nagato fell silent. After a long moment, he finally said slowly, Let's go out. Obito breathed a secret sigh of relief. Whether Nagato believed him or not, there, and black and white Zetsu's immediate crisis had eased. They could continue in the Akatsuki for now. Still, Obito prepared to activate Izanagi if Nagato tried anything. Thankfully, Nagato did not use the human path to ambush him. They left the Kamui dimension together. Back in the forest outside the village, Nagato kept his intentions unreadable, but gathered the 4 pains who had come with him. Figures of black and white Zetsu rose from the earth, respectful toward Nagato and ignoring Obito the entire time. Remain as you are, Nagato ordered. With those words, Nagato and the four panes vanished with a soft pop, turning into white smoke, summoned away by the reverse summoning technique. Once he sensed Nagato was truly gone, Black Zetsu finally asked in a low voice, "Obito, what did you tell Nagato?" "I didn't expose his existence. It won't affect the plan," Obito replied, before fading back into Kamui. "Can you trust what he said?" White Zetsu asked. "No matter," Black Zetsu said. "He's unreliable from the start." On the other side, Orochimaru watched Izayoi leave and thanked him. "Thank you for your help." "It's nothing," Izayoi replied with a smile. "But Lord Orochimaru, you may have to change bases again." "It does not matter. The important things are all in the scrolls. It's just a shame about the equipment. Getting replacements will cost time and money," Orochimaru said with an oddly light laugh. "That black and white fellow can merge with earth and plants. If my wood release hadn't used itself to counter him, things would have gone much worse." Izayoi admitted he had been watching Orochimaru and added, "Sasuke is preparing to learn sage technique. You can stay with him in Ryuchi Cave during that time. When Sasuke learns the Ryuchi Cave sage technique, I will give you the Reaper's mask, so you'll have a means to protect yourself." Orochimaru's eyes brightened, and he stuck out his tongue in an involuntary smile. He already qualifies to practice sage technique so soon? The compatibility between Hashirama cells and Sasuke is higher than I expected. I have long cultivated Sasuke as my second in command. He will be Konoha's future Uchiha Madara, Izayoi said blandly, the warning underlying the words cold. "Don't cause me any trouble. Even if I spare you now, I'll eliminate you and Anko Mitarashi in the village if you cross me." Orochimaru's pupils shrank and fear flashed across his face. His grin froze and his voice trembled. "Izayoi, how did you know?" "In this world there is no perfect ninjutsu. Every technique has weaknesses, like elemental counters," Izayoi continued calmly, showing no mercy. "As a child, you think adults are invincible. As a genin, you think Jonin and Kage are untouchable. But once your strength reaches a level far beyond that of ordinary geniuses, you see how childish their methods truly are." Izayoi pointed to his heart and looked straight at Orochimaru, who was sweating. The first Hokage's wife, because she was the Nine-Tails' Jinchuriki, had a mind's eye of Kagura capable of perceiving good and evil. By practicing spiritual transformation technique, I can perceive the aura of the soul. Your current soul state and the soul fragments hidden in your cursed seal are all revealed to my mind's eye. Don't disappoint me. With that, Izoi's body swelled and turned into a towering tree in an instant, a wood clone. "Lord Orochimaru, are you all right?" Yakushi Kabuto supported Orochimaru, who was drenched in cold sweat. Even as a clone, Izayoi had just radiated a deterrence that surpassed the fear Nagato and Obito had inspired before. Orochimaru ignored Kabuto and stared at the tree, his mind racing. Whirlpool Clan, Otsutsuki Clan, Senju, Uchiha, Rinnegan, Reincarnation Eye, Wood Release, Mangekyo Sharingan, Hashirama Senju, Uchiha Madara, Nagato, Otsutsuki Toneri, Izayoi, superlative combat power beyond what even the 5 Kage could match. Why did only these 4 clans and bloodlines reach such heights? Why could the Sharingan and Hashirama cells balance each other? What was the true relationship between the Senju, Uchiha, and the Uzumaki, Whirlpool, and the Sage of 6 Paths? Were the Otsutsuki friend or foe to the sage? A sudden flash of thought hit him, and Orochimaru's eyes widened. Outer Path Demonic Statue, the Tailed Beast plan. His body trembled with excitement. Kabuto asked again, worried, "Lord Orochimaru, are you all right?" "I'm more than all right," Orochimaru said, the old gleam returning to his smile. He looked up at the towering tree and murmured, "Kabuto, a storm of a new era is coming. It will be both fortunate and dreadful. We will learn the world's truth and yet feel the despair of helplessness. Because we are all mortals." After dealing with Orochimaru, Izayoi sent Sasuke to Ryuchi Cave and let him meet Orochimaru alone. Izayoi and Hinata ended their vacation and began helping Shino Aburame take on missions and build their combat records. Izayoi already knew that the first half of the Chunin exams would take place in March, an important month. Academy students from 1st through 5th grades had annual assessments to pick the top student in each grade, while 6th graders had graduation exams. Unexpectedly, a closed Chunin exam would also be held that month. Needing battle records for Izayoi and Hinata to prepare for that year's Jonin assessment, Team 8 stopped taking C-rank missions and began taking B-rank jobs. Izayoi stopped escort missions entirely. Those were too draining, especially when clients came from faraway lands, so he took assassination and intelligence work instead. He had also hoped to find war missions, but the uproar caused by Nagato and Otsutsuki Toneri had not yet died down. Weaker nations quietly sent envoys to the Lord of the Land of Rain seeking protection. No small country dared cause trouble. The 5 great nations avoided provoking one another, wary of attracting Toneri's notice and becoming pawns in his dealings with the Akatsuki. The Shinobi world was in an uneasy, strange peace. As a result, assassination requests surged. If they couldn't fight openly, they would fight in secret. In 1 month, Team 8 completed 13 B-rank missions, an astonishing pace. Shino Aburame's record climbed to near demonic levels. Izayoi and Hinata only needed a few A-rank missions to qualify for the Jonin assessment. Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief as if she could finally see retirement on the horizon. 2 months after the peak battle between Nagato and Otsutsuki Toneri, life slowly returned to its routines. With the 5 great nations tacitly accepting the tie between the Akatsuki and the Hidden Rain Village, the Akatsuki, packed with S-rank rogue shinobi, became the most formidable mercenary organization. The leader of the Rain had grown into a figure like a god of a new age. Merchants, villagers, and the Akatsuki members all felt life improve. They knew Nagato had brought this change. Nagato, however, knew that the great nations were only giving up small crumbs to distract him. If his goal were mere self-interest, these scraps would be tempting, but his aim was world peace. More missions only funded his plans. Once the Three Tails was resurrected, the Akatsuki would move. Who was deceiving whom remained unclear. March approached in Konoha Year 61, and with it the first half of Konoha's Chunin exams. After 2 months of uneasy peace, the shinobi world suddenly stirred. A major event erupted that drew the attention of every nation. Gentle fist style, 8 trigrams, 64 palms. The cry rang out inside the old dojo, followed by a rapid series of thuds. The younger sister-in-law, Hanabi, in a yellow-brown kimono, long hair flowing, had completely dropped her usual clingy, spoiled act. Veins stood out at her temples. A blue chakra aura wrapped her hands as she struck Izanami again and again, who stood calmly in place. 2 palms, 4 palms, 8, 16, 32, 64. Her slender, jade-like fingers hit the vital points with unerring precision through clothing. Chakra flowed from her fingertips, trying to pierce fabric and flesh to disrupt meridians and internal organs. The gusts kicked up their robes. After the 64 palms, Hanabi didn't stop. She spun a full turn, gathered herself, and slapped toward Izanami, shouting, 8 trigrams empty palm. Her chakra erupted in a shockwave, yet it did not pierce through Izanami's body and explode from his back. Instead, the force struck him like a gust of wind, pushing Hanabi's small hand away and launching her backward. Before she could crash hard to the ground and roll, Izanami appeared behind her in an instant and caught her. My hand hurts so much. Hanabi whimpered, blowing on the reddened, swollen skin. When the pain eased a little, she looked up at him with tearful eyes. Oni-chan, is your body made of steel? Why is it so hard? No, Izanami smiled as he set her down. My body's even harder than steel. He rolled up his sleeve and offered his forearm. Hanabi bit down and absorbed a bit of his chakra. He only chuckled. Wood release is a Kekkei Genkai formed by the fusion of water and earth-nature transformations. Yang nature chakra can boost wood release and enhance water and earth techniques. I used wood release to modify an earth technique, an earth spear, and reinforced my defense. My body's durability is stronger than diamond. To force me back, you'd need strength of 100 or to open the 8 gates. So amazing, Hanabi gaped. Then, suddenly pouty and wronged, she sulked. Then why would Oni-chan let Hanabi hit you? I just learned the 64 palms. How could I possibly break your defense? Because I want to teach you, Izanami said, rubbing her head. Do you want to learn? Hanabi nodded eagerly. What technique is it? Watch carefully. Izanami straightened and fixed his gaze on a nearby wooden training dummy. He extended a single finger in a classic sword finger poke. The motion cut through the air like an invisible arrow. The dummy exploded into splinters. Hanabi stared, utterly speechless. When she came back to herself, she looked up, wide-eyed. Oni-chan, how did you do that? This is a refined 8 trigrams empty palm, a chakra burst. It's basically a fusion of strength of 100 and gentle fist, Izanami explained with a smile. In short, it's advanced chakra control. Once your chakra control reaches this level, gentle fist and strength of 100 are both just ways of shaping and releasing chakra. He continued, the Hyuga typically favor gentle fist because they generally have less chakra, and the gentle fist fits their Kekkei Genkai. The Senju, with vast chakra reserves, tend to favor chakra bursts, what you might call the steel fist. But you and Hinata are different. You can walk both paths, hardness and softness. He made the poking gesture again and grinned. Imagine if your fingertip had my power, if you could force chakra into an opponent's body and then detonate it. What would that do? Oni-chan, you're amazing. Hanabi's idol. Hanabi flung herself into his arms, legs wrapped around his waist, hands around his neck, eyes shining with adoration. When you become a jonin, Hanabi will apply for early graduation and you can be Hanabi's personal jonin instructor, okay? Izanami laughed and ruffled her hair. Then call me Izanami-sensei and let's hear it. Izanami-sensei! Izanami-sensei! Izanami-sensei, she shouted emphatically, planted a loud kiss on his cheek, then hopped down and ran off giggling, already planning to tell their father. Izanami stood there, half amused, half exasperated, watching her disappear. As he stepped out of the dojo, a dark after-image blinked onto the Ingawa. A female Anbu in a cat mask and purple hair stood before him. Seeing her, Izanami narrowed his eyes. Yugao? Izanami-sama, the Hokage requests your immediate presence at the Hokage building. Team 8 is being urgently summoned, Yugao said, dropping to one knee. She was no ordinary Anbu. She was one of the guards with direct summons from the Hokage. Her respectful tone reflected how Konoha already treated Izanami as the leading candidate to be the next Hokage. I understand. I'll go at once, he replied. Yugao nodded and vanished as silently as she'd appeared. Izanami used a body flicker and headed for the Hokage building. On the way, he contacted his wood clones to check for major incidents. 2 live images came back. One showed a city in the Land of Wind, half of it reduced to ruins. The other showed a massive number of sand ninja combing the area, searching urgently. The pattern suggested explosive tags, rather than a straight ninjutsu strike. Izanami frowned. Could it be Konan? The wood clones were keeping tabs on the Akatsuki. If Konan had acted, they'd have warned him. The sand deployment numbers are already in the thousands, he thought. Such a mobilization is serious. Is this part of the original story, some 3-year gap, or a butterfly effect from me? I don't remember it at all. If I have no impression, it's probably not central to the main plot. He pushed the thought aside and reached the Hokage building. As he stepped inside, he found Team 7. Naruto waved a greeting. Izanami returned the wave, but his expression shifted. The wood clones fed him another live image. Nagato had been creating white, Zetsu-like clones, shaping them to imitate Akatsuki members, and Uchiha Obito had been drawing them into the Kamui dimension one by one. Nagato was clearly taking precautions against any reincarnation I-type threat, and had chosen to hold meetings within Obito's Kamui space. That suggested Nagato hadn't completely broken with Obito, and that Nagato, having regained youth, might be sharper than the naive figure Izanami remembered from the original story. Izanami couldn't help but smirk inwardly. After regaining youth, even his brain got better. Chapter 130, Brothers Meet. What are you two looking at? Izanami asked, puzzled by the stares. Sasuke bristled. What kind of look is that? Were you summoned on an emergency call too? Izanami asked. Emergency summoned? What are you talking about? Team 7 was taken aback for a moment before Naruto, unable to resist, jabbed a finger toward Tsunade and shouted, Tsunade, Granny, is there another big mission? You summoned Izanami and his team, but didn't call us. Do you look down on us? It hurts. Ow! Naruto clutched his head and howled. Kakashi smacked his forehead. Idiot, don't talk to the Hokage like that. Tsunade only chuckled. The way the not-yet-grown Naruto behaved made her think of Nawaki, appearance and temperament oddly similar. She tossed a mission scroll to Kakashi and said, exasperated, to Naruto, This is your mission scroll. Go negotiate with the client yourselves. Then she turned to Izanami and the others. I can tell just by looking This kid's academy grades are barely above bottom. Each team has different strengths. Some are balanced, some specialize in taijutsu, genjutsu, or sensing. Izanami and his teammate are currently Konoha's strongest sensing team. I summoned the sensing team because this mission needs their help. What are you lot doing tagging along? Can you sense? Naruto shot back. With Izanami's strength, what kind of sensing ninja is he? Izanami only smiled and warned, be careful on the road. Why? Team 7 exchanged confused looks. Because, based on your past missions, Izanami said dryly, 8 or 9 times out of 10, you run into accidents. This mission might be unprecedented. The members of Team 7 visibly went pale. The worst part was that those unprecedented missions never came with better rewards, or even proper battle credit. Jinx, Kakashi muttered as they were waved out by Tsunade. Not long after they left, Hinata and Shino arrived. Tsunade folded her arms and explained seriously, this emergency summons is for an aid mission. Yesterday, a mysterious force attacked a port city in the Land of Wind. They used advanced steel warships, heavily armored soldiers, and an energy like ninjutsu. The ships are fast, and they strike at night or early morning. Since the attackers have no chakra, the Hidden Sands sensing team can't detect them. They've asked our alliance for help. She handed a scroll to Izanami. Your job is to help the sand find the enemy's location. Don't worry about the rest. Teammate echoed, understood, and left to prepare. Izanami went to get the village exit permit while Hinata and Shino packed. At the village gates, the three encountered Team 7 again. You're heading to the Land of Wind too? Naruto brightened. Why don't we go together? It'll be fun. We'd love to, but we're in a hurry. Do your best, Izanami said with a smile. With that, Team 8 vanished in afterimages. Kakashi and Sasuke watched them go, thoughtful. Far away, inside Obito's Kamui dimension, 10 figures sat around a round wood table set on a platform of earth and stone, clones created by the imitation body technique, copies of Akatsuki members. Not bad, Toby. I didn't expect you to have this ability, Deidara remarked, eyes sweeping the dim space. Obito, Toby, feigned embarrassment. You flatter me, Senior Deidara. He scratched his head and laughed awkwardly, but the others were solemn. Space-time ninjutsu in our ranks, Kakuzu said low, and under that mask, not someone from the black market? Kakuzu's right. For an intern to have such a power. Kisame grinned, impressed. Itachi studied the clone carefully, then withdrew his gaze when he realized it too was an imitation. Why hold the meeting this way? Sasori asked. Did you find Otsutsuki Toneri and are planning a counterstrike? Pain spoke without expression. Future meetings will be held in this manner. Otsutsuki Toneri's reincarnation eye has sensing beyond the Rinnegan. I suspect he can summon meteors because he can sense or even see them in space. Meeting like this prevents him from exploiting our intelligence. It proves he knows too much about meteor bombardments and can call them with impunity. A chill ran through the room. If he can really see like that, isn't his eye an enhanced Byakugan? Kakuzu muttered. Black Zetsu, silent in everyone's thoughts, felt it too. The idea that an enemy could watch them from a place they could not see or sense was unnerving. Pain went on to the purpose of the gathering. Last night and again early this morning, my main body sensed a massive, unusual energy fluctuation toward the Land of Rivers. It was fleeting. During that time, the Land of Wind was attacked. A coastal city was bombed, half ruined. They didn't use ninjutsu or explosive tags, Pain continued. They fired cannonballs from steel ships and used an energy similar to chakra. Their soldiers are heavily armored. Zetsu discovered that their main base is a flying mobile fortress, not overseas. Armored soldiers? Mobile fortresses? Sasori sat forward. Has our world's technology advanced so far? According to our clone's intelligence, they're attacking under the banner of establishing an ideal nation, but what they really want is a mineral called Grell stone, White Zetsu said with a smile. Grell stone? Deidara cocked an eyebrow. What's that? I don't know, but it's probably the source of their energy, White Zetsu replied. Pain's interest was clear. Sasori, Deidara, Itachi, and Kisame, you're closest to the Land of Wind and the Land of Rivers. Go and bring back those that use that special energy and their mobile fortress. Kisame grinned. Split up or move together? I'm most familiar with the Land of Wind and its armored men. I have spies in the Hidden Sand. Leave the wind side to me, Sasori offered. I'll take the mobile fortress with Itachi, Kasame said. Zetsu's clones will assist. If necessary, call on the 6 paths of pain. Pain stood. Meeting adjourned. Without teleportation, Team 8 took 3 days to reach the hidden sand village. In the Kazakage's office, the elder Chiyo looked over them and sighed. Tsunade sent you? She did well to pick you. We're here to assist, Izanami said without ceremony. I need to review intelligence. Please take us to the site of the latest attack so we can check for traces. Chiyo's face hardened. I'd like to play host, but the situation is dire. We won't bother with pleasantries. She clapped, and Temari entered. Temari, take Izanami and the others to the most recent site, Chiyo instructed. Yes, Lady Chiyo, Temari replied respectfully. As they walked out, Izanami noticed Temari hesitating. Then smiling, he said, Long time no see. A long time no see, Temari stammered, relieved. She bowed slightly. Izanami, thank you for sparing Gaara. Izanami blinked. No need to thank me. The hidden sand paid a heavy price. Temari's gratitude was sincere. When she'd learned Izanami was a wood-release user and likely awakened that ability long ago, she had been fearful. He could have killed Gaara, extracted and sealed the One Tail during the Chunin exam's official stage, and become a hero. But he hadn't. He had spared Gaara, and Temari had never forgotten it. With everything that had happened since Gaara's return, her gratitude had only deepened. I accept your thanks, but let's focus on the mission, Izanami said, shading his eyes against the blazing sun. It's hot here. You're not wearing cloaks, Temari said. I'll take you to buy cloaks and water. After they bought cloaks and fresh water, Temari led Team 8 out of the village toward the site. She did her best to keep a conversation going with Hinata so the guests wouldn't feel neglected. Izanami, meanwhile, contacted the wood clones that had been monitoring the Land of Wind. The reincarnation eye was powerful, but not omnipotent. It couldn't eavesdrop or read lips. It offered only 2 perspectives, the God's Eye view and a first-person view, so it couldn't watch multiple places at once. If a target hid and had no chakra signature, it was difficult to find. Still, over the last 3 days, Izanami and the wood clones had searched the Wind Country thoroughly. He'd found traces that matched Tsunade's report. Well-equipped armored soldiers with no chakra, amphibious steel warships that didn't return to a home port after attacks but hid in the desert. He suspected this was either an enemy he hadn't seen in his past life or a butterfly effect of his own doing. An army without chakra, a large-scale operation centered on the sand village that was too abnormal to ignore. He frowned suddenly, something between amusement and frustration. Shino noticed. What's wrong? Nothing, Izanami said with a shrug. Just remembered something. He almost laughed as he patted his head. I've been relying on the reincarnation eye too much. My brain's getting lazy. 2 wood clones fed images back in real time. One offered a God's Eye view, picking up 2 strong chakra signatures. Sasori and Deidara near a steel warship hidden in the desert. The other showed Team 7's disappearance, and Pakun tracking them to a fortress tucked into a mountain. Inside that fortress were many armored men. This was the army's main base, and astonishingly, it stood in the Land of Rivers. They'd passed through the Land of Rivers on the way to the Wind Country. Izanami had scanned the rivers with a God's Eye glance and withdrawn at seeing no powerful chakra. He hadn't expected the base to be hidden as a mountain. The presence of Sasori and Deidara made him curious. Were they interested in the armored men out of their own motives, or had Nagato moved? If Nagato had discovered something, that would explain the secret meeting. Another live feed came from a clone monitoring Team 7's approach. A flash of inspiration hit Izanami. A risky plan formed that might erase the problem Nagato had just created. He issued instructions to his wood clone. Inside the mountain fortress in the Land of Rivers, Team 7 closed in on the scents they were tracking. Suddenly, as they rounded a corridor, they ran into 2 figures. Uchiha Itachi! Sasuke's face contorted. Hatred and killing intent poured off him like black smoke. Sakura went pale beside him as the air thickened with menace. Chapter 131, Rivals and Games, a Battle Between Brothers. Mr. Itachi, what a coincidence. I've run into your younger brother again. Kisame Hoshigaki of the Akatsuki grinned as he stood opposite Team 7. No wood release Shinobi this time. Shall we keep them here a while? Itachi Uchiha said nothing. His gaze stayed locked on Sasuke, who who had activated his Sharingan and now wore 3 tome. Itachi's expression tightened with surprise. Only half a year had passed. How had Sasuke's chakra grown so strong? What had happened to him? Sasuke, don't be reckless. The ones in front of us are 2 S-rank rogue ninja. Kakashi Itachi lifted his headband, revealing his own 3 Tomoe Sharingan. Cold sweat gathered at his temple. I'll hold them off. Go find Naruto and get out of here. Sasuke, let's go find Naruto first, Sakura echoed, her face paling. Sasuke didn't seem to hear. He raised his hand and condensed a sphere of blue energy the size of a soccer ball, with 2 smaller orbs like billiards whirling inside. The 4 watching, Itachi, Kasame, Kakashi, and Sakura, all reacted at once. Kasame, he hasn't learned that dust-release secret jutsu, has he? Kasame's playful smile vanished. He gripped Samehada's hilt, preparing to leap in and try to absorb Sasuke's chakra before the technique could complete. But Sasuke's speed exceeded his expectation. The small orbs blistered blue and white and slammed together, turning the larger sphere a blinding white. Storm released judgment. Sasuke pushed the orb forward. It sharpened into a massive beam of light and sliced down the corridor. The passage was narrow, the beam too large, and neither Itachi nor Kasame could simply body flicker out of its path. The speed was terrifying. Even Itachi, who could perform several seals in a second, could not form a counter in time. Samehada tried to react, but the storm release meant it could not absorb the attack. The 2 of them crashed through a window to avoid the blast as it tore to the corridor's end and detonated. Sasuke dispelled the technique immediately and leapt through the window after it. Kakashi, Sakura, you follow Pakken to find Naruto. Get him out of here, and then go back to find my shadow clone, Kakashi ordered, already moving. The explosion had drawn attention. Hyde, who was presently hosting the Uzumaki Naruto that Tamushi had brought, frowned when he heard the sound. What happened? He muttered. Lord Hyde, I'll go check. Tamushi, long golden hair and silver armor like a knight, said respectfully. I'll go with you, Naruto added quickly. Hyde smiled as he watched them leave, then his expression darkened. He produced a photograph, the caravan that Team 7 had been escorting. The central figure was not them, but an old man with a ferret perched on his shoulder. Hyde's eyes narrowed. Traveling with a ferret, could he be of that bloodline? A sinister smile crept across his face. We'll see what happens if members of those 2 lineages meet. Tamushi, don't fail me. A white Zetsu clone hiding nearby, who'd been eavesdropping, scowled. That fellow pretended to be a gentleman, but his true colors are showing. What a nasty piece of work. He relayed everything he'd heard in real time to Black and White Zetsu. Obito Uchiha received the report almost at once. Itachi and Kasame met Kakashi and Sasuke, and they're fighting, White Zetsu said. Their mission wasn't to bring back that mobile fortress? How did they cross paths with Kakashi? Obito asked, puzzled. White Zetsu explained, Team 7 had been escorting a caravan when Naruto, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, had bumping into a high-ranking member of the mobile fortress after a fight. They'd struck up an acquaintance, and that member had taken Naruto to see the fortress. Kakashi and Sasuke had gone looking for him and had simply run into Itachi and Kasame. A coincidence? Obito was silent for a beat, then twisted away without ceremony, leaving only, a brotherly battle? Interesting. I'll go take a look. Far away, inside a massive steel ship hidden in the desert, another scene played out. Idiot, I told you not to attack and you did anyway. Now the ship's blown to pieces. Sasori of the Red Sand complained. Hey, Sasori, that's not fair. Those armored men weren't affected by my explosives, and there was a flying Batwoman. If I hadn't acted, she'd have escaped. Deidara, carrying the Batwoman Camilla, protested. I've already sealed the entrance with magnet release. Even if she had wings, she couldn't have escaped, Sasori grumbled. He opened a large scroll stored inside his puppet and gathered the bodies of the armored men, along with the ship's stolen high-tech devices. They strode out of the ship, bickering. Outside, they both froze. The dozen or so puppets arrayed before them were pierced with black receivers, and most shockingly, wore white robes marked with the Otsutsuki clan sigil instead of Akatsuki uniforms. Deidara scratched his head. Brother Sasori, have we been marked by Lord Toneri? Of course. Sasori, still concealed within Hiruko, spoke with an unusual excitement. This time, there's no one to stop us. I can finally see his art in full. Deidara laughed and launched into the sky on his white bird. "Lord Toneri, let's have a battle of art!" he cried, diving at the puppets below and the distant figure of Izanami. Explosions kicked dust into the desert as the puppet army moved. A white Zetsu clone guiding the pair muttered, "Those two idiots have Toneri's attention and still won't summon the 6 paths of pain. Suicide." He sent the intel at once to Black and White Zetsu, who encoded it into a cipher and delivered it to Nagato as a scroll. Nagato read the cipher, one only he, Konan, Obito, and Black and White Zetsu could decipher, and his brow tightened. He'd seen that energy fluctuation before, the strange signature that had flashed when the mobile fortress embedded itself into the mountain. If his body hadn't been restored and enhanced with Hashirama cells, if his sensing hadn't been elevated, he might never have detected it. He turned the pieces over in his head. "Grell Stone, what is it? It seems I'll have to act personally." Nagato folded the scroll, formed wood release and yin-yang seals to create a ring, and carved a wooden tag with the cipher. "Zetsu," he called. "Leader." A white Zetsu clone popped out. Nagato handed him the ring and tag and watched him sink into the earth. The wood clone that monitored Nagato transmitted everything to Izanami in real time. The holders of the Rinnegan and the Reincarnation Eye were beginning another round of maneuvering. Izanami, for the first time, felt pressure. He realized that ninja battles were battles of intelligence. Until now, Izanami had relied on his knowledge of a plot-style fate, and that had been his advantage. But now, his advantage had been neutralized. The enemy knew about his Reincarnation Eye and had found countermeasures. He couldn't guess Nagato's next move. The pressure made his blood run hot, the thrill of finally facing a rival. He assigned Temari to a task perfunctorily and sent Hinata and Shino Aburame to search for the enemy, all while making his own plans. Nagato had Zetsu for close surveillance. Izanami had wood clones for remote monitoring. Each side had its strengths. Back at the mountain, Sasuke charged down the wall, formed seals, and hurled a meteor-shaped fireball at the two falling figures. "Fire release, great fire annihilation." Kisame's eyes widened. He felt that thrill of competition, but he kept his head. "Itachi, shall I go in or you?" "Itachi, you help me hold off Kakashi." Itachi cupped his hand to his mouth and spat a thread of flame that became another meteor of fire. The two meteors collided in the sky with a deafening crash and bloomed into a towering wave of flame. Sasuke, brandishing the kusanagi and crackling with blue and white electricity, cleaved the fire wave in two with a single swing. Then he became a streak of blue-white lightning and plunged downward. "Such fast body flicker," Kisame muttered, finally taking the genin seriously. Itachi threw a string of shuriken and then dissolved into a flock of crows, his crow substitution technique, dropping to the ground and reforming. Kisame formed seals and expelled a torrent of water that wrapped his body and reformed into a giant shark that slammed onto the ground. "Shadow clone technique," Sasuke called. He sliced at the shuriken with his sword, made one hand seal, and produced a puff of white mist at his right side. A clone appeared, then immediately vanished again, using body flicker. Before Itachi and Kisame could guess its destination, Sasuke had reappeared on the ground. The kusanagi turned into a spear of light and shot forward, piercing what seemed like Itachi's chest. Itachi's body exploded into crows and scattered. Crow substitution. The spear passed through empty air. Kisame shook his head in disbelief. 3 Tomoe Sharingan, that level of fire and lightning nature, plus water nature and shape transformation. It's like he's a different person. What terrifying progress. He still could hardly believe this was the same genin who'd been crushed by Itachi 6 months ago. But the strength on display piqued his curiosity. He sheathed Samahata and grinned at Kakashi. "Shall we watch the brotherly reunion from the side?" "No need to interfere." "Why is the Akatsuki here?" Kakashi asked cautiously, his Sharingan never leaving Kisame. Any shift in chakra and he'd strike. Nagato's resurrection as a savior of the ninja world had softened many opinions about the Akatsuki, but the 5 great nations' elite still considered them enemies. After Jiraiya's reports about the Akatsuki hunting tailed beasts, Kakashi suspected the worst. "Are you after Naruto?" Kisame cocked his head. "Sorry, can't tell you." He smiled. "You're sharp, Konoha, as expected of the strongest village. You're wrong this time. Our target isn't the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki." Kisame's gaze flicked up to the mountain where Uzumaki Naruto was running with Tamushi riding piggyback. Looks like we won't be able to quietly enjoy the brotherly fight. Kisame snapped his hands through seals. Water release, exploding water colliding wave. He spat out a massive surge of water that crashed down the mountain like a flood. The battlefield shifted. Everyone had to move. Sasuke used the moving water as cover. Kusanagi in one hand, his other arm twisting, he launched his hidden assault. Huge wooden vines erupted and twisted together, instantly forming a colossal tree that lunged to swallow Itachi like a shadow. Itachi regarded the sudden wood release with a flicker of pain in his eyes. He understood then. So that was it. This was how Sasuke's chakra had become so strong. He'd borrowed Hashirama's power or something like it, perhaps even risked transplanting Hashirama cells or Izanami cells to gain power at any cost. He felt the depth of Sasuke's will, but the hatred behind it wasn't enough. Itachi's Sharingan sharpened. The three tomoe blurred into a shuriken pattern, and he went entirely serious. Chapter 132, The Magic of Breaking the Moon, the Rebellious Son Sasuke, the Dutiful Son Sasuke. How strong is Uchiha Itachi when he gets serious? Perhaps no one truly knows. Even as vines sprang up and quickly grew into massive trees, swallowing him, Itachi, running across the water, suddenly reappeared behind Sasuke. Sasuke's three tomoe Sharingan couldn't even track his movement. All he felt was a gust of wind, and Itachi's calm voice whispered behind him. You've grown stronger, but with this level of ocular power, you still don't have the same eyes as I do. Trying to kill me with half-baked wood release is naive. With a kunai in hand, Itachi stabbed toward Sasuke's back. Sasuke curled his lips. Killing you is enough, he sneered. His back rippled as long wooden spikes shot out and impaled Itachi. Flesh tore and blood splattered as the spikes burst through, brutal, grotesque. Sasuke only glanced at the gruesome sight, then turned his head to a certain direction and spoke to the air with an expression as flat as ever. Is this the genjutsu of the Mangekyo Sharingan, or the unique eye technique of the Mangekyo? At Sasuke's words, the slaughtered image of Itachi shimmered and dissolved like a mirage. In the direction Sasuke had looked, the completely unharmed Itachi stood there. Seeing Sasuke's ferocity smoothed into an almost excessive calm, Itachi's curiosity surfaced in his voice. You seem to know quite a bit. Humph, Sasuke sneered. I know far more than you imagine. Why you spared me back then, why you tormented me, how you told me to gain the Mangekyo by killing the one I love. All of it was to treat me as a spare part to secure the eternal Mangekyo for yourself. Itachi's face flickered with surprise, but inwardly he felt a thrill of satisfaction. He had planned to use Tsukuyomi to reveal the secrets of the Mangekyo to Sasuke, but it seemed unnecessary now. Sasuke had already found a better teacher. Outwardly, he said coldly, Did Izanami tell you? Is your wood release from transplanted cells? Konoha's experiments with Hashirama cells always ended in death. Only immature wood release cells would let you get a half-baked wood release. Heh. Whose cells they are doesn't matter if they give me the power to kill you. Sasuke smiled, smug. Your Mangekyo Genjutsu is nothing in the face of this power. Then experience my Genjutsu. Sasuke formed hand seals and shouted, Genjutsu, bringer of darkness technique. Darkness invaded Itachi's sight. Itachi's mind leaped. He knew that forbidden technique, proof Izanami had been Sasuke's tutor. Izanami had not only transplanted cells, but taught Sasuke the Mangekyo secrets, forbidden genjutsu, and even a storm-release secret skill of his own. Izanami had great plans for Sasuke, plans that, Itachi realized with a measuring pleasure, might align with his own goals. If Sasuke avenged the clan, eliminated a rogue S-rank, took those eyes and rose as a hero, Konoha might be revitalized, perhaps even able to stand against the powers of the New Age. But as the darkness swallowed his vision, Itachi also saw Sasuke's chakra signature clearly within that void. Sorry, Sasuke, he thought. You still don't have the same eyes as me. I cannot die yet. He sidestepped as if avoiding something and struck. A pain-filled groan echoed through the darkness. He followed with a powerful sidekick. A surge of blue chakra flew back through his vision. Dazzling scarlet light burst from his eyes and the ink-like darkness shattered. Sasuke fell on the water, clutching his stomach, pained and wide-eyed. Itachi, composed and disdainful, clarified the strength of his Mangekyo. Your ocular power does surpass the ordinary three-tomo Sharingan, My Mangekyo Genjutsu can be broken easily by you, but you don't possess the same eyes as I do. You simply can't grasp their true power. Any genjutsu is a manifestation of yin chakra. Your yin chakra is too weak. Even forbidden class genjutsu is meaningless to my Mangekyo. Let me show you true genjutsu. Itachi widened his eyes like Sasuke had done moments before and whispered, Tsukuyomi. Sasuke's pupils constricted, his face slackened. Then purple shadowing appeared at the corners of his eyes. Both brothers started breathing heavily, sweating. Itachi, who had used Tsukuyomi, covered one eye and stared at Sasuke with a look of disbelief. He actually broke Tsukuyomi? What power is that? Sasuke, who had endured the Tsukuyomi world for so long, breathed rapidly, but a smug look shone where the purple shadowing lay. Is that the unique technique of the Mangekyo? Hardly anything special. This chakra, Itachi muttered as realization dawned. Natural energy is entering his body. No wonder he could break my Tsukuyomi. He frowned. Legend speaks of 3 sacred summoning lands where sages master sage technique. Is that sage mode? When did you learn it? It's just sage mode, not hard. Sasuke spoke arrogantly. I learned it in a week. So that's it. Wood release? Itachi analyzed, thinking of the shadow clone Sasuke had used. Sasuke didn't hear Itachi's mutterings. Racing against the clock, he gathered chakra and formed super hurricane cereal spheres in his hand. It only lasts 3 minutes, but this sage chakra is enough. This move was prepared for Izanami. Now I'll show you something even he doesn't know. The energy spheres swelled, their cores growing brighter. They spun and collided, merging into a blinding, half-human-sized white orb. Sasuke thrust it forward and shouted, Sage Art! Storm Release, White Dragon! A thunderous roar rolled through the valley. Distant fighters, 7th class Timushi Kisame, turned, and their faces drained at the sight of a giant white dragon formed of swirling storm chakra. It rose like lightning and dove down as a pillar of light, fast, precise, inescapable. Some muttered in shock. What kind of chakra is that? A storm release? Did Izanami use it? Or is this Sasuke? No time to use Amaterasu, it was thought. The white dragon struck like Kirin, fast and deadly. Itachi had no chance for Amaterasu. Crow substitutes and body flickers were useless. Against the dragon's incredible speed and tracking, ordinary movement couldn't evade. Itachi did not hesitate. He used the 3rd power of the Mangekyo. A surge of orange-red chakra ripped out, condensing into a giant skeletal upper body. The white dragon struck it like a pillar. Cracks rang as the storm release empowered by sage energy shouldered impact, and Itachi's face flickered with alarm. He poured more yin chakra into the form, adding tendons, flesh, and a chakra coat until the skeleton became a proper hulking figure. In its 2nd form, the cracks closed. The sage-empowered storm release no longer harmed it. Still, Itachi was shaken. Sasuke had hidden such a technique and actually forced his Susanoo into action. Rebellious son, rebellious son. A wood clone, using the reincarnation eye, cried as it relayed the scene back in real time. Izanami's eyes flashed coldly when the information reached him. Alone, a cruel smile would have split his face. Good kid, he thought. Sasuke had learned Sage Mode long ago and had even developed his own Sage Art, a storm-release white dragon. Hidden from his adoptive father, he needed discipline. Izanami was also stunned by Sasuke's talent. In 2 months, he'd mastered Sage Mode and created a more powerful, faster Sage Art with water control. Unbelievable. Pulling his cloak hood up out of sight, Izanami activated the Rinnegan's long-range and X-ray vision to inspect Sasuke more closely. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then his pupils constricted, and ecstasy flooded him. So that's it. So that's how it works. If Sasuke were in front of him now, Izanami could not have resisted embracing him. The mystery he'd harbored about Hashirama's Sage Mode, whether it came from Shikatsu Forest or the Sage Body's extreme development, was at least partly solved. Hashirama could enter Sage Mode instantly, maintain it throughout battle, and supply Madara with enormous Sage Chakra because of his Sage Body and Wood Release. The Sage Body has maximal affinity for natural energy, and Wood Release in Hashirama functioned as a weakened divine tree. The divine tree can absorb planetary energy and bear chakra fruit. Hashirama's Wood Release could absorb chakra, indeed body and mental energy, and when his Sage Body sensed natural energy, he could absorb it instantly. Naruto had to draw it into his body and shape it. Hashirama used Wood Release like a pump. He could absorb vast amounts and fuse them into Sage Chakra in an instant. That is why Hashirama could keep Sage mode as long as he wished. Izanami once more felt the terrible power of wood release. In the hands of a Kaj, it has limits. In the hands of a Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, it becomes divine tree power, a Keke Mora-level force that can cooperate with infinite Tsukuyomi to cover the world. Izanami noted another detail. Their natural energy wasn't absorbed directly into their bodies, but mediated through something else. They had attacked the land of wind to find that thing. He recalled Hyde holding a photo with a feral smile. The photo had a fleeting image of Team 8 at Konoha's gate a few days ago, the 7th class's caravan client. Izanami redirected his plans in response. Withdrawing his piece, he issued new orders. As his piece was pulled back, Nagato's piece landed where it had been. A white Zetsu clone, carrying a ring and a wooden tag, appeared at the mobile fortress and triggered a storage summoning jutsu. White smoke popped and Shindo's corpse lay on the ground. Then, as if on cue, Shindo's eyes suddenly opened, instantly transforming into Rinnegan. Summoning jutsu! Shindo formed seals, slammed his palm to the ground, and called. From the smoke stepped a handsome red-haired young man. "You've done well, Zetsu," the newcomer murmured. Nagato, after saying nothing more, vanished with a blur. Uncertain whether Otsutsuki Toneri lurked in the shadows watching and waiting, he had to race against time. Chapter 133, The Harvest of Izayoi and Nagato. You drink the broth and I eat the meat. That kid, how does he have so much power? Inside a room in the mobile fortress, Hyde watched Uchiha Sasuke below through the window as Sasuke used Sage Technique, Storm Release, White Dragon. Shock and excitement warred across Hyde's face. Could this boy be a descendant of that line? Did he have a Grell stone in his hand too? Hyde was ready to keep observing, looking for any chance to capture Sasuke, when a voice whispered in his ear. Wood Release, Silent Killing Binding Technique. Wooden vines erupted from the ground like ropes and wrapped Hyde up. Who? His expression shifted to surprise. He turned to see a red-haired youth, but his body was already restrained. Without hesitation, Hyde activated the Grell stone implanted in his right hand, drawing on its power. His hair flashed from brown to white, his eyes turned red with vertical black pupils, and his skin took on a steely hue. Crackling, branches formed across his body. He broke free easily. 4 fleshy pillars sprouted from his back, expanding like an Akamichi clan's secret technique, and thrust toward Nagato. What incredible power! Is it because of that stone? Nagato stared at the green glowing stone on Hyde's hand. He raised one hand and whispered, Shinra Tensei! Boom. A massive explosion rocked the area, and an invisible repulsive force obliterated the room. The 4 pillars were thrown back, and Hyde's body shot through the wall and flew out of the mobile fortress. Lord Hyde, the cry from below, carried up. The blast drew attention. Tamushi, looking up at Hyde in the sky, shouted in shock. A figure emerged from the thick fog of the fortress, and Kakashi Hatake's face registered surprise. Naruto, run! Kakashi barked and formed hand seals, creating 2 shadow clones. Fire release, ash pile burning, he spat, blowing a cloud of ash to obscure Kasame Hoshigaki's sight. Figures rushed from the dust. Kakashi and his clones had grabbed Uzumaki Naruto and Tamushi. Another clone moved to protect Sakura Haruno, who had already slipped out of the mobile fortress with Pakken and was heading back toward the merchant caravan. Let go of me. I want to help Lord Hyde. Tamushi drew his knight's sword, activated the Grell stone's power, shattered Kakashi's shadow clone, and lunged toward Hyde. Tamushi, Naruto shouted, trying to break free. Idiot, do you want to get everyone killed? Kakashi snapped with a rare harshness. That one up there is the Akatsuki's leader. Their goal is to capture tailed beasts, the monster inside you. That young man isn't your friend. He was an enemy before. Going after him is suicide. You drag us and the village down with you. Naruto, stunned to see Kakashi so angry, froze. Kakashi opened the first of the 8 gates to increase his speed and carried Naruto beside Uchiha Sasuke, who still reeled from Itachi's Susanoo. Kakashi leaned close. Sasuke, do you have the chakra? Use a wide-range wood release to cover our escape. Understood. Sasuke shot Itachi a resentful glance, then formed hand seals and called, Wood release, deep forest emergence. The soggy earth trembled. Branches burst from the soil, growing rapidly into ordinary trees, branches and leaves spreading out in all directions. A forest sprang up at the mountain's base in an instant. Uchiha Itachi, overwhelmed by the surge of trees, dispelled the second form of Susanoo and watched his Mangekyo Sharingan fall back to the three Tomoe form. He stood atop a large tree, looked up at Nagato in the sky, then toward the fleeing 7th class, and allowed himself a private sigh of relief. Even Kakashi had been shaken by Nagato's sudden appearance. He had feared Nagato had come for the Nine Tails. Kisame quickly materialized beside Itachi and teased, "Itachi, they got away. Should we chase?" "The Nine Tails wasn't this mission's target. We'll wait for the leader's orders," Itachi replied expressionlessly. Kisame smiled, then eyed the direction where the chakra had just vanished, and said with interest, "I didn't expect that in only half a year, your younger brother's strength would grow enough to force you to use your trump card, Itachi. If he keeps this up, when he truly attains eyes like yours, will he break free of your control?" "It doesn't matter. Everything is part of the plan," Itachi said flatly, though his eyelids twitched. Constantly using Tsukuyomi and Susanoo had clearly worn on him. He'd tried to avoid direct action in recent years and left battles to Kisame so that his ocular power wouldn't be depleted, but his physical reserves were declining. His chakra pool shrank a bit each year. At this rate, he had at most 3 to 5 years left. He'd once worried he might not survive until Sasuke matured. Now, with Sasuke's current strength, Itachi thought Sasuke might be capable of killing him in a year or two. Even with only a 3 Tomoe Sharingan, if Sasuke personally killed him, Sasuke would awaken the Mangekyo. To prevent the truth from coming out and to make sure Sasuke could one day obtain eternal ocular power, Itachi knew he needed a backup plan. Maybe it was time to find the future 6th Hokage. Meanwhile, Nagato had finished his part in the sky. "All creation of attraction," he commanded. Nagato, who had flown out of the mobile fortress, raised one hand and let loose an odd gravitational force, like an invisible palm, pulling the flying hide back. With his other hand, he extended wooden vines and bound hide again. This time, Nagato increased his chakra output and whispered, "Sealing technique, limb restraint seal." Blue chakra coalesced along the vines, and tadpole-shaped black seals crawled across the aura and quickly spread over Hyde's body. Hyde instantly lost physical control and even the ability to speak. Nagato did not land with him. Instead, he formed a wood clone in midair. The clone placed a hand on Hyde and used the Preta path to absorb the energy within him. The energy of the Grell stone poured out, and Hyde reverted from his monster form back to his original human appearance. "This energy is," the wood clone gasped as it absorbed Hyde's energy. Its body began to shift toward a monstrous form at visible speed, but the transformation immediately receded, and instead the clone showed red eye shadow forming at the corners of its eyes. "So it's natural energy." Nagato, digesting the info streamed through the wood clone, murmured, "No, it's not ordinary natural energy. It also contains yang release power similar to wood release. More precisely, it's life force." "Is this because of the stone?" Nagato stared at the stone on Hyde's right hand and muttered, "Is this the Grell stone? Let's see what it really is." He placed a hand on Hyde's head and used the human path to extract and absorb Hyde's soul. A flood of information filled Nagato's mind. Filtering through it, he quickly extracted details about the Grell stone. He read and reacted aloud, surprised. The Grell stone can create wells that never run dry and livestock that grow overnight. It can produce crops that yield continuously, combine anti-aging studies with ecology. In the old ninja world, there was an empire built using these stones. How could no records remain? No, it's not that nothing was left. Fewer and fewer people know, and they moved abroad, the voice in the memory said. Nagato searched Hyde's belongings and found a photograph. Looking at the old man and the ferret in it, he said softly, "The answer might be with him." "Let go of Lord Hyde!" someone shouted from below. Nagato looked down and saw a green blade shooting into the sky toward him. Before he could react, the wood clone beside him, which had instantaneously entered Sage mode, flew down. Without using the Rinnegan, the clone simply threw a punch. The fist collided with the green slash and shattered it into a wave of green energy that rolled outward. "Is this Sage technique chakra?" the clone breathed, examining his unhurt fist. "Natural energy and wood release are a match made in heaven, and the life force inside it can enhance yang release. If I had more of these stones, I might not need Hashirama cells. My wood release could be even stronger. The clone's gaze landed on Tamushi below and took on a fervent light. This youth was one of the descendants of that lost empire. The old man with the ferret was the other. The boy seemed to be a key, and the old man might know where the Grelel stone mines were. If Nagato obtained both, he would effectively secure the mine. The wood clone flew down and easily subdued and sealed Tamushi with wood release. Nagato himself made an incomplete hand sign, closed his eyes, and focused his sensing to locate the 7th class. In an instant, his expression shifted. He had sensed something familiar. He opened his eyes and said with distaste, "The reincarnation eye. Truly a disgusting power." Moments earlier, Nagato had picked up a chakra signature that was Otsutsuki Toneri's in the direction of the 7th class. But very quickly, that chakra and the smaller energy fluctuations around it vanished without warning. From the faint traits his sensing picked up, the two smaller fluctuations were the old man and the ferret in the photograph. Clearly, Toneri had acted as well. Nagato had targeted Hyde. Toneri had gone after the old man. Suddenly, Nagato felt glad he had come himself. Otherwise, he might have gone home with nothing. The Grelel stone mine is likely hidden underground in the land of rivers or the land of wind, Nagato mused. Otsutsuki Toneri's reincarnation eye grants enhanced Byakugan-like vision, but it can't see Zetsu when it's merged with earth and plants. Like my Rinnegan, it also can't detect natural energy. I can send Zetsu clones to search underground in the land of wind and the land of rivers for similar mines and deploy wood clones to sense everywhere. Even if he finds the Grelel stone mine, his chakra will reveal him. Besides, he doesn't have wood release, and his compatibility with the Grelel stone is low. He can't easily absorb its energy and fuse it with chakra to form Sage Technique chakra, like I can with the Pretapath and wood release. Life Force won't enhance him much. At worst, he'll master Sage mode. Unless the mine isn't in those lands, he won't monopolize it. Relieved, Nagato turned and flew back to the mobile fortress to comb through Hyde's remaining possessions. He had to prepare for the worst. If he couldn't secure the Grell mine, he'd still use this last stone to learn to sense natural energy himself. Once he could sense natural energy on his own, he wouldn't need a Grelel stone to enter Sage mode. In the land of water, Izanami's wood clone had returned to borrow chakra from the Six Tails Jinchuriki to alter his chakra signature. Using a mental sphere, he had extracted information from the old man and found what he wanted. A vast empire, a Grelel stone mine, power that could destroy half a continent. I have a vague impression of this, Izanami muttered inwardly, forehead creased. Still can't fully recall it, though. It's definitely something from a movie. Why so sure? Because aside from the Ten Tails, only the movies feature threats capable of destroying the ninja world at a moment's notice. The Grelel stone mine that could level half a continent is one of those devices. The Ryumyaku that could devastate a land if mishandled is another. Moryo, sealed by the priestess of the land of demons, was likewise movie level. The reincarnation eye and the chakra cannon are also cinematic creations. As a user of the reincarnation eye, Izanami understood movie logic well. He realized why he couldn't place the Grelel stone from memory. In his previous life, he had only seen a few popular movies. Original TV anime plots tend to leave some impression. This one left none. Instant Sage mode activation, so as I suspected, those stones contain natural energy. Recalling Nagato's wood clone instantly entering Sage mode, Izanami smiled faintly. Wood release is a cheat for training Sage mode, he thought. Then I won't have to rely on the 3 great Sage regions. I can train Sage mode myself, like Hashirama Senju. Chapter 134. Win. Izayoi's Sage mode. Izanami-kun, Hinata, Shino-kun, thank you. More than 2 hours later, outside a ruined steel behemoth, Tamari bowed to Team 8 and thanked them. She looked at the ape-man and wolf-man sealed by the sand shinobi and asked with a knowing glance, "Is this enough?" "Yes. If we can capture these two, we'll be able to pry the location of that army's main base right out of them," Tamari said confidently. "Those armored people aren't true shinobi. Their cadres can turn into monsters and use jutsu-like powers, but in the end, they're ordinary. No match for our hidden sand. Since you don't need us anymore, we'll return and report to the Hokage," Izanami said. Tamari then extended a sincere invitation. Izanami-kun, please come with us. Let our hidden sand fulfill its duties as host. No, maybe another time. Izanami shook his head. Konoha's Chunin exams for the first half of the year are about to start, and Shino still has to take part. Seeing his resolve, Tamari could only smile and nod. All right, if you ever want to visit the hidden sand, have your guards contact me. Certainly. We'll be going now. Farewell. Izanami smiled, made a quick sword-like gesture with his fingers, and in an instant, he and Hinata and Shino vanished. Meanwhile, the fight on the other side had also ended. The damaged steel behemoth had been blown apart, and the yellow sand lay littered with wreckage. Fragments of the machine, bits of Sasori's red sand puppet army, and the scattered remains of Izanami's puppets. Of the dozen or so puppets that had black receivers embedded all over them, allowing their main body to draw chakra from them at any time, only 5 remained intact. One bulky puppet, built from the corpse of a cloud shinobi, sat on top of another and taunted Sasori and Deidara, both immobilized by black receivers stuck into their limbs. Humph. Losing is losing. My art wasn't good enough, Sasori's main body said with cold pride. Do with me as you please. Deidara shouted in indignation. Lord Toneri, if you're brave enough, pull those receivers from my body. I, this great artist, still have a self-detonation technique. It's the ultimate art, even more magnificent than C4 Karura. Not even your lightning release could match it. My explosion will be unforgettable. Aren't you afraid of dying? The puppet asked, curious. Lord Toneri, how dare you look down on me? Deidara cried then, with a fanatic gleam, continued. When I die, I become art. That unparalleled blast, even in a desert, will leave marks that won't vanish for a long time. My art will be praised by all. Even you, Lord Toneri, your main body will remember this great one forever. He closed his eyes, nodding as if in ecstasy. No need, I won't forget you already, the puppet said quietly. It is hard to forget such an idiot, Sasori agreed, nodding. Deidara struggled violently, promising to demonstrate his ultimate instant beauty, but the struggle was useless. The puppet stood, then said, I had my fun today. You two try pulling out the black receivers yourselves. You aren't going to kill us? Sasori and Deidara froze. If you'd summoned your boss just now, you'd be dead, the puppet replied with a smile. But I admire your spirit. Consider this a sparring session, and thank you for last year's gift. With that, the puppet that had finished its mission vanished without a trace. That was impressive, Lord Toneri, as expected, Deidara cheered ecstatically. We got away with our lives this time, but next time may not be so lucky, Sasori said more soberly. The Outer Path demonic statue is in the leader's hands. The final confrontation will come sooner or later. If we can't even handle his puppets now, when the real fight arrives, we'll likely die in the aftermath, even if he doesn't kill us outright. Just thinking about that stage excites me, Deidara said, eyes gleaming. When the time comes, I'll self-detonate early so the 2 strongest in the shinobi world can witness the pinnacle of my art. Sasori's expression tightened. The incident in the Land of Wind had begun and ended inexplicably. By the time the Sand Village's interrogation unit had squeezed the location of the enemy main base out of rank, the Ape Man, and Fugai, the Wolf Man, and led a large force into the Land of Rivers, the mobile fortress that had been embedded in the mountain was already gone, taken by Nagato. The hidden sand assumed the enemy had been tipped off and moved their base, and they continued searching, but nothing turned up. Even after Konoha's Chunin exams ended, the sand still found nothing. Seeing that the Land of Wind was no longer under direct attack, the hidden sand grudgingly pulled back and closed the matter. Team 7, whose target had been taken, weren't punished when they returned. After all, the one who seized their client was Otsutsuki Toneri, a visitor from the moon, and the leader of the mobile fortress had asked Nagato to act. It was clear the 2 wielders of Sage's Eyes, after failing to settle things by sheer force, had begun playing a hidden game of chess. Even Minato Namikaze or Sakumo Hatake would have been allowed to abandon a mission without blame under such circumstances. How much more so Nagato and Otsutsuki Toneri, far stronger than any ordinary combatant. Tsunade was simply grateful that Team 7 came back alive. And she was right. After the sand withdrew, Izanami and Nagato kept playing their quiet game across the lands of wind and rivers. Nagato secured the mobile fortress and pillaged Hyde's remaining Grelel stones. Tamushi, the key, was taken prisoner in the Hidden Rain village. Nagato didn't know much about Tamushi. Hyde's soul memory only hinted that Tamushi was a descendant of that old empire who could merge perfectly with Grelel stones without turning into a monster. Izanami, who had secured the old man and the ferret, knew more. Tamushi's blood could activate a summoning formation that tore open a space-time hole and swallowed the Grelel stone mine, the ore field that could destroy half a continent, into the void. It was an absurd contingency plan left by that empire. The contest between Izanami and Nato boiled down to endurance. Izanami had already learned the Grelel mine's location from the old man's memory. Before the empire fell, it had sealed the mine deep beneath the mountains of the Land of Rivers with special methods, techniques so advanced that not even Izanami's long-range and X-ray vision of the Reincarnation Eye or the Kagura's Mind's Eye could detect the ores. Black and White Zetsu's ephemeral techniques couldn't find it either. After all, the Land of Rain bordered the Land of Rivers. If they could sense such terrifying energy, White Zetsu would have discovered that vast green brilliance long ago. Still, Izanami deployed several wood clones to rotate guarding and monitoring the site. Nagato likewise sent legions of White Zetsu clones to search underground in the lands of wind and rivers for anything resembling a Grelel vein, its hallmark being a stone full of natural energy and life force, glowing green. White Zetsu could merge with earth and plants and sweep through subterranean roots and aquifers at speed, so if a mine existed, it would find it. Nagato also spread many wood clones disguised as ordinary people across those lands, using powerful sensing to lock on to any abnormal chakra. If any unfamiliar chakra shifted, or if Toneri's chakra showed up, they would be ready. A month went by with no results. Nagato began to wonder if he was wrong, or if the Grelel mine was hidden by seals that even his and Zetsu's sensing couldn't pierce. Maybe Toneri was simply waiting. Unwilling to give up, Nagato ordered that some White Zetsu clones remain in place to cooperate with the wood clones in chakra surveillance, and to dispatch White Zetsu immediately if any unfamiliar chakra appeared. He planned to continue the waiting game. That order, however, gave Izanami an opening. The wood clones assigned to the Grelel site occasionally accompanied Renmaru by Flying Thunder God technique to inject wood-release chakra into the ground and perform ultra-long-range sensing. They noticed fewer White Zetsu clones passing by and confirmed that neither Nagato nor Zetsu knew the mine's exact location. They seemed to have backed off. Still cautious, Izanami tested the waters. He slipped a mental sphere into an ordinary person and had them wander near the ruins. The wood clones watched invisibly below. Seeing no White Zetsu around, they left Ranmaru behind, had the ordinary person carry him, and entered the underground ruins that hid the Grelel mine. Such subterranean tomb-like ruins were common. In the mountain ranges of the Land of Rivers, there were many natural caves and volcanic tunnels. This ruin was a deceptive facade. The true mine lay deeper. Renmaru used his red eyes to create a perfect mirage and activated a mechanism that opened a secret passage. Inside a deeper chamber were ancient carvings and instructions recounting the Grelel stone's powers and dangers, and the Empire's rise and fall. In the center sat the summoning formation for the space-time hole, the one needing Tamushi's blood to activate. Renmaru left the Flying Thunder God formula in the chamber, set up a sensing-blocking barrier, then pried up a floorboard. Beneath was earth, and within that soil lay the Grelel stone mine. Even his red eyes and the wood clone's reincarnation eye couldn't directly see the stones. The sealing technique still hid their energy. But Ranmaru could dig them out. He used earth release to liquefy the surrounding soil, then performed a transfer. Ninja art, heavenly transfer technique. A section of the soil, and some of the Grelel stones within it, was whisked clean away into nothingness. A green light flashed up through the floorboard, and Renmaru immediately vanished with the ordinary carrier by Flying Thunder God. We won. In an underground chamber beneath a nondescript building, Izanami watched Grelel stones appear out of thin air in front of him, and couldn't help the faint curl to his lips. This was the advantage of information asymmetry. Nagato could never have imagined Izanami's reincarnation eye harbored a mental sphere comparable to human path. yet fundamentally different, a power that could not only read minds, but also control will and action. Renmaru himself was a trump card, undetectable unless the Reincarnation Eye or Rinnegan was present, beyond the reach of Byakugan or the Kagura's Mind's Eye. On configuration and hidden assets, Nagato, the transplant recipient of the Sage's Eye, simply couldn't match this self-evolving cheat. Even without a narrative advantage, Izanami could still secure victory. Is this the Grellel stone? Izanami held a green stone the size of a billiard ball. Close up, it resembled the Reincarnation Eye's mental sphere, round and glowing, but inside it sat powerful natural energy and life force. Mishandled, it could turn a person into a mindless beast. Properly extracted and refined, it could grant tremendous benefits: vitality, never-empty wells, rapidly grown livestock, perhaps even slowed aging. Let's see just how miraculous this natural energy really is, if even the Reincarnation Eye and the Kagura's mind can't sense it, he muttered. He didn't immediately use the Reincarnation Eye and wood release chakra to absorb it himself. Instead, his right arm twitched, sprouted a branch, and became a wood clone. The clone didn't take the billiard-sized stone from Izanami's hand. It picked up a larger Grellel stone from the ground, about the size of a basketball, and activated the Reincarnation Eye's chakra absorption. Green chakra surged out and wrapped the stone like a spinning globe. Then, the green chakra flowed back into the clone, and the stone turned into a transparent crystal. The green light's energy drained away. For a beat, the wood clone's features contorted. The mouth snapped open, revealing sharp fangs. The skin and face took on a hint of beastliness. But in less than 2 seconds, those signs vanished. Red shadowing appeared around the clone's eyes, and when the Reincarnation Eye deactivated, the pupils had shifted from blue to gold. By using the Reincarnation Eye's chakra absorption, applying yin-yang release, and with wood release's aid, the wood clone had conquered the Grellel stone's raw energy and fused it into chakra, Sage Technique chakra, instantly activating Sage mode. Izanami reached out, placed his hand on the clone's shoulder, and absorbed that Sage Technique chakra into himself. Red shadowing bloomed around his eyes. He curled his lips in a small smile. Heh, that's all there is to it, completely effortless. Perhaps the natural energy in this stone is secondary. Just as Izanami finished his assessment, the wood clone's voice popped into his head. He watched the clone raise its hand, close its fist, and the slightest flicker of surprise crossed its face. The feeling was transmitted to Izanami in real time. After digesting it, Izanami's eyes widened. Using the chakra absorption ability of his Reincarnation Eye, he drained every bit of energy from the Grellel stone, roughly the size of a billiard ball, that sat in his hand. Blue-green energy flowed into him. Externally, Izanami's Sage mode didn't change. His aura didn't suddenly swell. Still, he murmured in amazement, what a powerful, pure life force. The sensation the wood clone had sent over a moment ago had been its own bodily response, specifically the reaction of its wood release. Even though Izanami had later pulled in Sage Technique chakra, he could not directly absorb the life force inside the Grellel stone through that method. The Grellel stone was not merely a natural energy rock. That unnamed empire had used these stones to power their weapons and industry, to make beasts grow overnight, to produce endlessly fruitful crops and unending wells. The stones carried not only the potential to destroy continents, like the Dragon Vein's time and space attribute, but an attribute of raw life. When the wood clone absorbed a basketball-sized Grellel stone earlier, the effect had been like Nagato donning Tobi's armor, an obvious enhancement in wood release power. More precisely, the yang side chakra strengthened. That meant Izanami's bodily energy increased, and the life force had started altering his cells. Suddenly, Izanami understood how that empire could grow livestock in hours or keep wells running dry less. He understood why Nagato personally engaged to deal with a small player like Hyde. This life force was the greatest supplement to wood release. If one could remove or control the troublesome component, the natural energy portion, then the stone's life force was an immense reward, experienced to improve chakra and wood release, essentially a miracle tonic. What would be toxic to most would be an unalloyed benefit to Izanami and Nagato. No wonder Nagato had been so tenacious. Izanami sighed. The wood clone stared at the Grellel stone and echoed, "What a pity." The pity was practical. The wood clone couldn't transfer that life force to the main body the way it had just absorbed it. Natural energy could be drawn in, but the Grellel stone's life force couldn't be taken into the clone and then merged into Izanami's own cells. Even if he reabsorbed the clone, the life force inside would be impure. What would be improved was only the wood release chakra, not the body's core energy. Unsure how many stones were in the mine or how much improvement each could grant, Izanami could not afford to waste them on clones. Only his main body should absorb the Grellel stones. There were more constraints. Cultivating true sage mode required enormous chakra reserves. Only huge chakra could suppress the backlash of raw natural energy and force it to fuse into sage technique chakra in the correct proportions. If natural energy overwhelmed the body and could not be fully converted, the backlash could be catastrophic: beastification, monstrous transformation, or even disappearance. True sage mode had to be cultivated by Izanami himself. Before he absorbed a Grellel stone, he needed to deplete the sage technique chakra in his body to avoid imbalance. That was easy. Have a clone use the reincarnationized chakra absorption, then the main body could refill and continue absorbing. But it still wasted the Grellel stone's natural energy. Izanami frowned. Is there a way to let the body absorb these natural energies too, or at least maximize their use? He waved the wood clone away and sat cross-legged in front of the pile of Grellel stones, arms folded, mind racing. He reviewed important memories he had kept since arriving in this world. Time had not blurred them. The original texts contained little on natural energy, but what there was mattered greatly. Gamamaru had approached Otsutsuki Hagoromo because he wanted the brothers to destroy the divine tree. Since the tree took root, the planet's natural energy had been draining away. Natural energy might be a component of the planet's life force. Chakra fruit contained natural energy elements too. Otsutsuki Kaguya, having eaten the fruit, should have been able to use sage power, but becoming a god at once may have made her reject that capacity. Her prodigious talent and battle experience were in any case unimaginable. Hagoromo, as Kaguya's eldest son, felt natural energy instantly when he arrived at Mount Miyoboku and, guided by Gamamaru, immediately extracted sage technique chakra. He had no dark eye markings and his pupils didn't change. In contrast, most who mastered sage mode in the original book developed dark rings around their eyes and altered pupils, Senju Hashirama included, whose chest bore an image other than Hagoromo's. One person matched Hagoromo in lacking eye markings, Uzumaki Naruto in his default six-path sage mode. Naruto was the reincarnation of Asura and was born with a sage body. Izanami's eyes narrowed. Otsutsuki bloodline, sage body. As Kaguya's son, Hagoromo was born with horns and an exceptional constitution. He didn't need to fuse opposites to gain ultimate ocular techniques. His Otsutsuki bloodline must have been above red level. His sage body, acquired and then passed down to his descendants, was very high in purity. That kind of sage body seemed tied to the Otsutsuki bloodline and the chakra fruit. After Izanami obtained the Otsutsuki bloodline, red, he had unlocked multiple system entries and even the medical genius trait when he first practiced medical ninjutsu. I want to confirm something. He activated the far side of his reincarnation eye and shifted his view to a sea island base, focusing on a young man with orange hair. Several informational bubbles floated around the teen. A purple one popped up. Sage transformation purple. No, Izanami whispered, then shifted his view to Uchiha Sasuke, who was training diligently, bubbles swirling around him. More than half a year after transplanting Hashirama cells, Sasuke had reached elite combatant level. The Hashirama cells were stimulating his Indra chakra and steadily increasing his chakra. He had the conditions to cultivate sage technique and had already mastered the Ryuchi Cave's sage mode. The influx of chakra and the convergence of the two extremes even let Sasuke do things Nagato couldn't. Like Uchiha Madara, Sasuke's wood release had improved. When he first took Hashirama cells, his wood release entry had been blue. Now it had upgraded to purple, the same tier as Tenzo and Izanami. Yet even at the same color tier, Sasuke's wood release differed vastly from Izanami's. Because Izanami had the Otsutsuki bloodline, red, his wood release, like Hashirama's, could absorb chakra. Under certain conditions, Izanami's wood release could evolve to golden. Sasuke, however, seemed headed only toward techniques like the reanimated Madara's Flower Tree World Advent and Wood Dragon technique. No, Izanami repeated after reading Sasuke's entry. He switched to observe Jiraiya and then to Jugo. None. The ones capable of sage transformation, like Jugo, Sasuke, and Jiraiya, even those who had mastered true sage mode, had the sage body entry. In contrast, Uzumaki Naruto, who hadn't yet cultivated sage mode on his own, already had the sage body, red, entry. Only he, after receiving the Six Paths inheritance, could achieve what Hashirama couldn't, a true sage body without the usual eye pigmentation. If Naruto lost his Six Paths power, his Otsutsuki bloodline, still only blue in purity, would revert. Izanami couldn't help smiling. A thought formed, and excitement rose in him. Perhaps I can cultivate a sage body after birth. His chakra, too, came from a chakra fruit, and his Otsutsuki bloodline had reached red. His configuration might be a notch below Hagoromo's and his chakra's purity lower, but he didn't need a sage body above red. Even a white-level sage body would do. Once unlocked, he could spend points to upgrade it to red or higher. That meant he wouldn't have to rely on Naruto's luck. Energized by the possibility, Izanami began immediately. He split another wood clone, had it absorb the sage technique chakra, and then set the main body to ingest the energy of another Grelel stone. Natural energy and life force poured into him. The life force was rapidly assimilated by his body. The natural energy coursed through his meridians alongside his chakra, but didn't fuse into sage technique chakra. Most people's child's chakra wouldn't be able to suppress that raw natural surge, not even Kisame or Kakashi, without the burden of Sharingan. Only Izanami, with his Otsutsuki bloodline, reincarnation eye, wood release, and yin-yang release, could control and contain the influx. He sat cross-legged, hands forming a zazen mudra, trying to sense the world's natural energy with the natural energy inside him. Because the ambient natural energy there was limited, the wood clone brought another basketball-sized Grelel stone and set it in Izanami's lap. He absorbed it. The sudden rise in natural energy made it impossible to stay calm. He felt his body swell like an animal pumped with hormones. His meridians throbbed faintly. If he continued, true beastification would appear. Reluctantly, Izanami forced the natural energy to fuse into Sage Technique Chakra and re-entered Sage mode. In this state, it might be easier to sense external natural energy, the wood clone observed. "That's not a Sage body, it's Sage mode," Izanami replied, shaking his head. Inside Sage mode, his mind was exceptionally clear. The wood clone, more independent than most clones and without the after-effects of exhaustion when dispelled, brainstormed with him. Then, as if struck by an idea, it transmitted in real time. The Sage of Six Paths could cultivate a sage body without needing a holy site because his Otsutsuki bloodline was farther advanced, and his chakra came straight from the chakra fruit, probably containing extreme amounts of natural energy. Your constitution is far lower, so you can't cultivate a sage body the same way. But if your hypothesis is right, that an advanced Otsutsuki bloodline gives the potential for a sage body, why not, after mastering true sage mode, use wood release and yin-yang release to convert as much of your chakra into sage technique chakra as possible? Keep natural energy in your body long-term and see if it alters your cells. With the system's nature, any slight cellular change should unlock the entry. Then you can spend points to upgrade it, right? Izanami's eyes lit up. He looked at the wood clone with admiration. Brilliant, just as I'd expect from me. The clone showed a smug expression. I was impatient before. This kind of entry won't be trivial, but this plan makes sense. First, we master true sage mode, Izanami said, all fired up. Then, like Goku and Gohan during the Cell Saga, keep Sage mode as a constant state. Let Sage Technique Chakra constantly affect the cells of body energy and spiritual energy. Sage Technique Chakra fuses in a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio of body energy, spiritual energy, and natural energy. If anything can change cellular structure under long-term exposure, it's this. Having found a concrete path, Izanami felt elated. He rose from the underground base and headed out to share the news with Hinata and to give his girlfriend a gift. The Grelel stones were not only a cure for him, they were a tonic for the Otsutsuki clan as well. Chapter 136. You guys are in the wrong studio. This is Naruto. Izayoi. What is this? It was a holiday. The Hyuga sisters, who had long since made a habit of dropping by Izanami's house whenever they had free time, were currently rifling through his sewing room. They didn't need Izanami to call them. Both sensed chakra and simply appeared in front of him. When they saw him, though, they froze for a moment. Hinata felt that his appearance was oddly familiar, as if she'd seen it somewhere before. Hanabi stepped closer and asked, curious, "Oni-chan, are you wearing makeup? Why are your eyes a different color today?" Izanami had already deactivated the reincarnation eye. Red markings sat at the corners of his eyes, and his pupils had taken on a golden hue. His aura was close to nature and tightly controlled. His composed gaze made him seem even more dignified. To the Hyuga sisters, he was as handsome as ever, only the style was different. "What do you think?" Izanami smiled and ruffled Hinata's hair. "Heh, I can tell just by looking." Hanabi leaped up, hooked her legs around his waist, draped her arms around his neck, and pressed her face close to his. "Huh? It's not colored contacts, and that's not makeup. Oni-chan, how did you do this?" "Hanabi, stop fooling around." Hinata pulled her sister away from her boyfriend, then looked at Izanami. "Izayoi, is this Sage Mode? Did you make a contract with Shikotsu Forest?" "Close, but it isn't the Sage Mode of Shikotsu Forest." Izanami gathered Hinata into his arms with one hand, took Hanabi's small hand with the other, and teleported the three of them to the villa's living room. They settled on the long sofa, and he smiled. "I have a surprise for you." "What surprise?" As usual, the two sisters cuddled against him, one at his left, the other at his right, either clinging to his arm or lying on his lap. A faint, almost imperceptible pale purple Byakugan hovered around them as they watched him with a mix of curiosity and expectation. Looking at their delicate, beautiful faces, no matter how bad Izanami felt or how tired his body was, seeing them instantly relaxed him. He pinched Hinata's cheek playfully and pinched Hanabi's mouth so she would pout. Then he propped his forearm in front of Hinata and said with a smile, "Hinata, try biting." "Okay." Hinata nodded. Izanami had long since trained her to feed in this way. "Oni-chan, I want some too." Before she could bite gently, Hanabi climbed fully onto Izanami's lap, grabbed his other arm, and bit his shoulder. Blue chakra welled where their teeth applied pressure and flowed into the sisters like warm liquid. In the past, when they absorbed a little of Izanami's chakra, Hinata and Hanabi would feel comforted, like drinking hot tea in winter. Today's sensation was different. That cup of hot tea was scalding. Their fair skin flushed red as their pores opened and steam rose from their bodies. Their wide eyes blurred into something like intoxication. Stunned expressions slid toward dazed pleasure. If someone didn't know better, they might have thought they'd stumbled into a hot spring, not Izanami's living room. Izanami called out sharply, "Wake up, are you okay?" But the girls remained dazed. He couldn't help mentally grumbling, "You two are on the wrong set. This is Naruto, not a medicinal drama." He had expected the life force inside the Grello stone could be transferred through physical contact, that those who absorbed it could increase their limits. He'd especially hoped Hinata and Hanabi could grow. He had not expected such an extreme side effect. They looked like they were about to explode out of their clothes. After several minutes, the steam stopped and the redness slowly faded. Their minds cleared and the sisters blinked in perfect unison, their eyes bright. Hinata's blush returned, and she broke free of Izanami's embrace, trembling as she looked at him. Izayoi, you." Words failed her. Hanabi was flushed and sweating, but steadier of mind. Curiosity outweighed her embarrassment. "Oni-chan, what's different about your chakra? Why? Does it taste so good?" She didn't finish the sentence, but that was the point. Both girls felt it. If Izanami's usual chakra was like a medicinal tonic that warmed them and healed their fatigue and injuries, today's was like biting straight into a potent herb. It was fierce. One bite had them hot and sweaty, the heat rushing up to their heads and emptying their minds. If they hadn't been biting something, they might have been drooling and giggling like idiots. In short, they were high. Check your bodies, activate your Byakugan, and see if anything changed. Izanami didn't try to explain. He simply watched the two girls as they activated their eyes. He hadn't examined their ability entries in a long time. Since Hinata's last red-level entry, there had been noticeable growth. Hanabi had gained another entry, Body Technique Genius, blue. Hinata had gained 3, Medical Genius, blue, body technique genius, blue, and sealing genius, blue. Her chakra control had advanced from blue to purple. Jonin qualification, blue, had become shadow level qualification, purple. Within those red, purple, and blue entries, a flash of dazzling gold appeared, something different. Izayoi, what's the range of your Byakugan now? He asked. Hinata, already using her Byakugan, calculated out loud. About 35 kilometers. Sis is amazing. Mine's under 10 kilometers. Hanabi exclaimed, stunned. Besides range, any other changes? Izanami continued. My perception's stronger, Hinata said with a smile. I can see more pressure points, and I can judge which meridians are weaker by chakra flow. That makes Gentle Fist much stronger. I can also release chakra from more points on my own body, which improves Gentle Fist techniques and strength of 100 sealings. Once I learn the Yin seal, I can begin combining hardness and softness. Izanami suddenly asked, have you tried releasing chakra through the Byakugan? The Byakugan can do that? Both girls blinked in surprise. You should try it, he said with a smile, inwardly amazed. A Byakugan with a 35-kilometer range was already a golden grade skill, very different from his old experience. When his own Byakugan reached gold, his range had been 50 kilometers. He also had Prince of Byakugan, red, and an Otsutsuki bloodline to bolster it. Hinata, by comparison, was only a princess of Byakugan, red, and yet with 3 years of absorbing Izanami's chakra, her eye had leapt to a golden state. Normally, such evolution without a high-level Otsutsuki bloodline would take decades. She should be many years away from any reincarnation eye-like evolution. Izanami suspected that Hinata's Byakugan wasn't following the Rinnegan reincarnation eye path, but evolving into some unknown third kind, perhaps an exclusive dojutsu akin to certain Otsutsuki awakenings. He had many high-level skills, and the Grelel Stone's life force was potent. It wasn't impossible that Hinata could evolve into something extraordinary. The thought pushed him to be more proactive. He'd share the Grelel Stone's life force with the sisters and see how far they could grow. Hinata didn't know what he was thinking, but she smiled and nodded at his suggestion. You're all sweating. Let's go for a swim. Okay. They spent the day enjoying their usual activities. When they grew tired, at Hanabi's request, Izanami used the Flying Thunder God technique to whisk them away from Konoha to visit other places in the ninja world. After 2 days of leisure, Izanami began his planned seclusion. The Grelel Stone was an unexpected discovery and a possible breakthrough. It gave him a real chance to beat Nagato before his sage body and the reincarnation eye completed their final evolutions. Izanami needed to prepare for the next round. He had to save up 990,000 points before Shippuden arrived to raise a red skill to an as-yet unknown level. If not fully reach it, at least get very close. Otherwise, once Shippuden began, Otsutsuki Toneri might mobilize the giant reincarnation eye to monitor the entire ninja world, and Izanami would be trapped on the back foot. Because the seal hadn't been lifted, he couldn't find the space channel to reach the moon. Traveling by gravity wasn't true flight and couldn't achieve the Otsutsuki's interstellar mobility. That was why he was so eager to raise his Otsutsuki bloodline. He had a strong premonition that raising it to a new level might trigger another transformation, another chance to defy fate. The next morning, he split off a wood clone to guard the house while his main body teleported off the ninja continent to the island where Jugo lived. Using wood release to shape a long branch engraved with the Flying Thunder God technique, Izanami teleported to Jugo and implanted a spirit ball into him. Jugo never had a chance to react. Izanami killed him instantly and used the spirit ball to read his memories. Jugo's sage transformations erupted where natural energy was strong. If Izanami could find the memory of the place where Jugo lost control, he would learn where the natural energy was concentrated. Aside from the 3 great sage lands, the underground ruins in the Land of Rivers were ideal. If Grelel stone mines existed there, the natural energy would be extremely potent. The risk, however, was high. If Nagato or the white and black Zetsu discovered him, it would lead to an unavoidable, brutal fight, and the Grelel stones could be taken. So he chose caution. He moved to an area of relatively strong natural energy and split multiple wood clones to take turns probing the surroundings with wood release, checking for white Zetsu clones. With the home clone standing guard, he called a portion of the Grello stone into being. Sitting cross-legged, he began to absorb its energy. Red markings immediately appeared at the corners of his eyes as Sage Mode activated. The earth beneath him formed a square wooden board that slowly lifted and carried him. A thin rock pillar rose to support it. Izanami sat perfectly still. His body and mind had become one with nature. Because the natural energy here was strong, it took him only 2.5 days to synchronize with the world's natural energy. Within half a day after that, he could absorb natural energy in a normal state and extract Sage Chakra. In 3 days, he had conquered true Sage Mode. That, however, was only the beginning. The next challenge was to absorb vast amounts of natural energy and convert the surrounding sea of chakra into Sage Chakra to make Sage Mode his baseline state, so he could maintain it while eating and sleeping, store natural energy in his body, and let the chakra influence both his physical and spiritual energy. He needed those two energies to affect some 130 trillion cells, thoroughly marinating the body until it bore a trace of sage characteristics. Only then would the system recognize him as having a sage body and unlock the sage body skill. Chapter 137, Capturing Izanami? Black Zetsu's Backup Plan. While Izanami experimented on his own body to see if he could unlock Sage Body Entry, Nagato, who had handed village affairs to Konan, had already gone into seclusion. He sat in an underground chamber full of barrier techniques so dim that he couldn't see his hand in front of his face. Even through the reincarnation eye, all that showed was a mass of blue chakra. Only one person was inside. That person was the new era's ninja god, the strongest recognized in the shinobi world, the child of prophecy in Jiraiya's heart, Nagato. What nobody knew was what lay beneath Nagato's seat, the outer path demonic statue. The whole world, both civilians and shinobi, wondered why that statue could trigger a clash between two owners of the Sage Eye. Finally, I've got it. In the dark, Nagato opened his purple rippling eyes. A faint red glow gathered in the corners. Like eyeshadow, he thought to himself, as I suspected, the outer path demonic statue still conceals unknown secrets. It isn't as simple as Uchiha Obito said. Nagato had now cultivated true Sage Mode, but it hadn't been quick or easy. Unlike Izanami, who had mastered Sage Mode in 3 days, Nagato had spent over a month in seclusion. He lacked a large supply of Grello Stone to aid him. The Grello Stone Hyde had given him was already used up. Even so, Nagato could already enter Sage Mode instantly at will. What he had cultivated here was the true Sage Mode. Lacking a contract with Mount Myoboku and uncertain where the strongest natural energy lay, he had been searching for a place to sense and draw nature's power himself when he felt a wisp of natural energy, right on top of the outer path demonic statue's head. So he trained there, and in just over a week, he completed it. Combined with wood release and yin-yang release creation, Nagato could now absorb a vast amount of natural energy as soon as he entered Sage Mode and sustain it for a long time. His offense, defense, and sensory abilities improved dramatically. His strength had soared again. Black and White Zetsu, who could sense through ordinary barriers, immediately noticed the change. Nagato has grown stronger, Black Zetsu said in a low voice. His current power must be no less than Lord Madara's, right? White Zetsu exclaimed. The life force in those stones restored his body to its peak, and his chakra was boosted again, Black Zetsu hoarsely replied. If he puts on Tobi's mask, he may be stronger than Madara now, but the stronger he is, the better it is for us. Can we still resurrect Lord Madara now that Nagato is this powerful? White Zetsu fretted. He has the Rinnegan. We can't implant a cursed seal in his heart. Madara's eyes are watching him, so we can't activate the transfer seal. He's wary of us. Can we find a chance to possess him? That depends on whether our backup plan works, Black Zetsu answered with confidence. When Nagato emerged from seclusion, Black and White Zetsu appeared before him and handed him a scroll. Nagato opened it, read the secret message quickly, then covered it with chakra, erased the characters, wrote a new secret message, and returned the scroll. Black and White Zetsu read it, nodded, and left. Not long after, a fist-sized black hole opened out of thin air, and its terrifying suction twisted Nagato's body. He was drawn into it. Almost 2 months have passed, and still no strange or powerful chakra has appeared within the borders of the land of wind and the land of rivers. In the Kamui dimension, Black and White Zetsu reported to Nagato. White Zetsu fretted. Leader, maybe we guessed wrong. Perhaps the Grello stone mine isn't inside the Land of Wind or the Land of Rivers at all. Worse, Otsutsuki Toneri may already have it, Nagato said calmly. If that's the case, he's probably started cultivating Sage Mode as well. His chakra will be even greater than before. We must be ready to start round 2 at any time. Black and White Zetsu and Uchiha Obito, masked as ever, tensed. Have you mastered Sage Mode? Obito asked. Yes, I can enter it at will now, Nagato nodded. Then can you beat him? Obito persisted. If Toneri's strength hasn't changed and I wear Tobi, we have at least a 70% chance, Nagato said. If your space-time ninjutsu can lock on his location, our chance rises to 90%. But you and I both know that's impossible. With his meticulous nature, when he reappears, he will have prepared to be stronger than before. Therefore, we must be fully prepared and plan for the worst-case scenario, Nagato analyzed. Next time he appears, he might have 6 paths techniques equal to mine, Sage Mode, vastly greater chakra, and the Human Puppet Legion. Nagato's expression tightened. The next round may be the final battle. We must account for his Human Puppet Legion. His 6 paths techniques differ from mine. His yin-yang release could control a dozen puppets, and he might fit every puppet with yin-yang receivers. Last time, a dozen puppets easily took down Sasori and Deidara. If I hadn't intervened to repay Sasori's debt, they might not have returned. Moreover, those puppets didn't include Bloodline users or Danzo Shimura. His Human Puppet Legion could now be stronger than the entire Akatsuki. If I go after Toneri, those puppets could strike at the Hidden Rain and the Akatsuki. We need forces to counter them. Nagato turned to Black and White Zetsu. Is there any way to increase the strength of the White Zetsu army? White Zetsu clones, like Tobi, are derived from Hashirama's cells, White Zetsu said with a playful look at Obito. If we get more of Hashirama's cells, we can increase the White Zetsu's strength. Find a wood release user, extract his cells, and inject them into the clones. Their numbers and power will rise dramatically. Obito's expression behind the mask darkened. Since his identity had been exposed, these two had been treating him with less respect, often contacting Nagato directly and excluding him from plans. He felt sidelined. When he caught Nagato's gaze, eyes that flickered with interest, his heart raced. He quickly prepared to activate Izanagi, but kept his voice steady. Hashirama cells are limited. If you want to boost the White Zetsu, there's a better option. The wood-release ninja of Konoha? Nagato understood immediately. That's right. He's a genuine wood-release user who reached high-level Tree World Advent techniques less than a year after graduating. With that kind of chakra and talent, he'll become someone like Hashirama. If we capture him, we wouldn't just boost the White Zetsu. We might, through clones, outnumber the entire Shinobi world, Obito continued, his dislike for the youth who exposed him evident. He emphasized both the threat and the benefit. If you worry about panicking the 5 great nations or spoiling the tailed beast plan, don't. Even if you don't act, Konoha's wood-release youth will become a dire threat. Eliminating him will look like removing a future menace and securing your supremacy. As long as you avoid going after Jinchuriki, the villages won't unite against the Hidden Rain. They'll gloat. You might lose some reputation, but your gains would be unimaginable. Nagato's brows remained furrowed. He didn't relax. That's not my worry. If peace comes and a new world is built, pain will be looked upon as both the most virtuous and the most evil. I wonder, with that young man's ninjutsu talent, will he also learn the Flying Thunder God technique? At those words, Black and White Zetsu and Obito's faces changed. No, that can't be, White Zetsu stammered. In the 61-year history of the Shinobi village, only 3 people mastered Flying Thunder God. 2 in the same era? Hard to say, Black Zetsu replied faintly. He awakened a mind's eye of the Kagura in the academy, guessed Obito's identity from his visits to Rin, and hid his wood-release bloodline until the 3rd and Danzo died before revealing it. He became the 6th Hokage's successor almost overnight. He's precocious, deep-thinking, and cunning, not inferior to Otsutsuki Toneri in scheming. He's shown 2 nature transformations and a storm release formed by 3 natures, plus Onoki's flight ninjutsu and dust release techniques. Uchiha Sasuke might have awakened wood release via cell transplant and even mastered Sage Mode. Combined with saving Orochimaru, it's possible he learned Ryuchi Cave Sage Mode too. With that bloodline, intellect, and ninjutsu talent, this kid, except for not having the Nine Tails, is a fusion of Hashirama Senju, Tobirama Senju, and Uzumaki Mido. Nato and Obito's expressions grew grave. That was the heart of Nagato's hesitation. He'd used Tree World Advent and Wood Human technique in Tobi's armor, and knew Wood Release's power well. It could challenge Shinra Tensei. Wood could be as hard as mountain stone. A forest of it could resist even a super Shinra Tensei. A Wood Human's repulsive force could rival Wind Release. Super Shinra Tensei might not easily shatter it. Wood Human repairs required only chakra, and Wood Release was a physical attack the Preta path couldn't absorb. 2 of the 6 path's strongest defenses would be countered. If Izanami only knew Wood Release, they could handle him with Tobi. What Nagato feared was the Flying Thunder God technique. If they moved to seize the Konoha youth first, he could turn and strike rain with Tree World Advent, or the fighting between villages could give Toneri an opening. The threat from Toneri was unresolved and provoking a limitless rival, especially before reviving the 3 tails, and while the demonic statue could only restore at most 2-tailed beasts, made the decision heavy. If you want more troops besides the White Zetsu, there may be other ways, Black Zetsu said, and the 2 listened. Impure World Reincarnation. Black Zetsu proposed suddenly. Orochimaru's Impure World Reincarnation? Nagato and Obito were momentarily stunned, then their eyes lit up. Nagato shook his head. That technique could make up for our lack of troops, but we don't have the scroll for that forbidden jutsu. Even if we did, it requires exceptional talent and conditions. Orochimaru might be hiding in Ryuchi Cave. We can't read his memories with the human path. Heh, we have the scroll, White Zetsu chuckled. Black Zetsu added, if it were anyone else, mastering Impure World Reincarnation would be difficult. But not you, leader. Nagato had been a jutsu prodigy from childhood, mastering 6 nature transformations, using mainstream ninjutsu at 10, and now commanding all 5 elements and the Rinnegan's 6 paths techniques. With summoning and soul abilities, if anyone besides Orochimaru could master Impure World Reincarnation in this era, it would be Nagato. And that revelation, that Nagato himself could be the one to perform the Impure World Reincarnation, was Black Zetsu's prepared backup plan. Do you have the scroll for the Impure World Reincarnation? Nagato and Uchiha Obito both stared at Black and White Zetsu in surprise. White Zetsu asked, where did you get it? From Orochimaru, or from Konoha's Forbidden Jutsu Vault? From the vault, Black Zetsu replied. I sent a White Zetsu clone in to steal it, while Izanami was on a mission. The scroll had been one of Madara Uchiha's hidden inheritances. Madara had passed most of his knowledge to Obito, 6 paths techniques, yin-yang release, the Uchiha flame formation fan, but he hadn't trusted every blade to a single piece. Some forbidden jutsu he never taught Obito. Impure World Reincarnation was one of them. Impure World Reincarnation, Nagato mused. Orochimaru's killing of the 3rd Hokage flashed in his mind. He nodded. We'll try it. Good. I'll practice the Impure World Reincarnation, Nagato decided. Zetsu, send clones to infiltrate cemeteries across the countries. We need the remains of powerful shinobi, famous names who can be used as puppets when Otsutsuki Toneri's army attacks. Yes, Black and White Zetsu answered. Also, Nagato added, send spies to gather everything you can on Izanami. I need an opportunity to test the future 6th Hokage. You can leave that to Obito. His dojutsu is perfect for this, White Zetsu teased. Black Zetsu explained before Obito could react. That boy's wood release and his mind's eye of the Kagura can break the ephemeral technique the White Zetsu clones use. We have clones planted throughout the ninja world, but we can't get reliable intelligence out of Konoha. For this task, we need Obito's eyes. He can help us find elderly widows and widowers or reclusive orphans, people the White Zetsu clones can impersonate. It's not as convenient as eavesdropping, but we'll pick up every major move in Konoha right away. Nagato turned to Obito. You and Zetsu will handle that. I'll do it, Obito said quietly. His inner frustration remained unreadable. As Nagato and the Zetsus prepared to meet in the Kamui dimension, a wood clone observing them fed the information back to its original. Meanwhile, in a village gym, Izanami had Hinata stretched over a yoga ball while he worked her shoulders and neck. Hinata, who could normally spar with mountains and trees and barely tire, was sweating and breathless after only a few minutes under Izanami's careful, deliberate pressure. The wood clone's live feed had saved her from overexertion, an advantage Izanami used without haste. In Sage mode, he could multitask calmly. "I almost forgot," Izanami murmured. "Last time Obito tried to spy and failed. They're having a meeting in the Kamui dimension now. Perfect timing." He ordered a wood clone to start searching. The clone activated the reincarnation eye and first checked for Uchiha Sasuke in Konoha. Sasuke wasn't there. Shifting perspective, the clone scanned Konoha for a large chakra signature and quickly found Uzumaki Naruto training by the waterfall with Jiraiya. The butterfly effects of Izanami's choices had rippled through the timeline. Nagato's strengthening was only one change. Sasuke's decision not to defect had altered the 7th class and many fates. Sakura Haruno never became Tsunade's disciple. Kakashi trained her in the mainstream genjutsu of the ninja world and recommended her for an internship at Konoha Hospital. With Sasuke staying and Naruto remaining in the village, Kakashi had felt it improper to hand Sakura to Tsunade, especially since the strength of 100 technique was a senju secret and Tsunade already had Karin as a prized pupil. Karin, who had awakened the adamantine sealing chains and mastered the Whirlpool clan's 3 unique abilities, had rapidly proven herself. In the first half of the year's Chunin exams, only 5 of the new generation advanced: Uchiha Sasuke, Shino Aburame, Hyuga Neji, Nara Shikamaru, and Karin. Naruto and Rock Lee were powerful but not yet squad leader material. Karin, a newcomer less than a year in Konoha, was already at Chunin level and might become a special Jonin soon. With Karin and Shizune as Tsunade's right and left hands, there was no room for Sakura to take that path. If Sakura worked hard with Kakashi's resources, she still might become a top genjutsu medical hybrid, but without Kakashi, she would likely top out at Jonin. Naruto himself had changed significantly. His power remained inconsistent. His taijutsu could be compared to a genin at times, yet his combined Shadow Clone plus Rasengan or Shadow Clone plus Wind Release techniques could fell even an ace unless the enemy countered with Earth Release. Jiraiya, once again convinced Nagato was the child of prophecy, had stopped wandering the world and returned to Konoha to train Naruto and help him master the Nine Tails. Because Izanami, the legitimate Wood Release user, was in Konoha, Naruto's potential berserk states could be suppressed if necessary. The 7th class hadn't been disbanded. They were busy with missions, gathering only when needed. Were it not for Naruto, Kakashi might have handed the team entirely to Sasuke and retired to a lazy life, reading Icha Icha Paradise, half spending his days at the cemetery, only exercising when necessary. He'd been trying to rebuild himself mentally when night fell, and he went to bed as usual. His body, weakened by years of Sharingan use, needed rest. Kakashi entered a dreamless sleep. Then red dust seemed to appear from nowhere. A green hand reached in, and with lightning speed pressed a small green orb to his forehead. The orb slipped into his skull. Kakashi's eyes went blank beneath his forehead protector. Izanami, using a wood clone for disguise, and Ranmaru's red eyes to render himself invisible, had slipped in while Kakashi was out buying groceries and waited. He produced a scroll, surgical tools, and a bottle of green liquid. Inside that bottle floated an eyeball, the scarlet 3-tomo Sharingan, the pupil like a living spark. Using chakra-imbued surgical tools and the memories of a medical ninja he had copied, Izanami performed the eye operation quickly and cleanly. He removed Kakashi's Sharingan, sealed the socket, and placed the eye and Kamui itself into the bottle. Then he summoned a Grelel stone, used it to amplify his sage energy, and poured Yang-release chakra into Kakashi's body to restore and strengthen him. When Kakashi woke, he would feel as if he'd slept deeply. The surgery would trouble him not at all. It was compensation, an investment. Kakashi was a valuable ace of Konoha and would serve under Izanami when Izanami became 6th Hokage. Izanami even treated Kakashi's long burdened body, a decade spent carrying the Sharingan. Had he dared risk making the change too obvious, Izanami might have done more. When he left Kakashi's home, he erased the traces and vanished, reappearing in the basement of the villa on Sakura Street. The basement had been converted into an operating room, white light, clean surfaces, an operating table at its center. On the table lay a puppet-like corpse, Danzo Shimura. After the Reincarnation Eye's second awakening, Izanami had prepared Danzo's corpse. Yin-yang release black rods were embedded in his body to transmit the main body's chakra. His wood release had been greatly amplified. The only limitation was that the Reincarnation Eye lacked the Six Paths technique. Danzo could share Izanami's chakra and use yang release to boost his wood release, but he could not wield the Reincarnation Eye's Six Paths level abilities. Even so, Danzo was at the peak of the 5 Kage in raw power. Only Onoki could reasonably contest him. Izanami intended to strengthen him further, but first he had to rearrange eyes. The Mangekyo Uchiha Danzo had once possessed, its will still existed, had been removed. Izanami had already transplanted that Mangekyo, containing Izanagi, onto Kakashi earlier as a contingency. He could always take it back later. He liked the idea of watching Obito's face when Kakashi's eyes suddenly changed from Kamui to Izanagi. Now, at Danzo's table, Izanami completed the next step. He removed Danzo's remaining eye, gave him a normal 3 Tomoe Sharingan in the right eye, and transplanted Kakashi's Kamui eye into Danzo's left. Then, using the black rods to transmit vast amounts of chakra and the Grelel stone to amplify his energy, Izanami poured power into Danzo's core. Chakra surged through Danzo's meridians and swelled around his left eye. A scarlet light flared. The 3 Tomoe in Danzo's left Sharingan darkened and connected, forming a sickle and shuriken pattern around the pupil. That pattern, hailed by many on the net in Izanami's past life as the strongest Mangekyo, was now in a body augmented with Hashirama cells, yin-yang release, the Grelel stone, and Izanami's ocean of chakra. The result was terrifying. Danzo rose from the table under Izanami's control. Though this Mangekyo had no eternal form, its offensive and defensive power exceeded the Kaja level and could even harm Six Paths level beings. With Danzo's body reinforced and the eye's powers unleashed, he could be used as a spear capable of threatening Super Kaji levels, potentially injuring Six Paths class opponents. It was like giving an elite Jonin an S-rank jutsu. Suddenly the battlefield tilt shifted. Izanami studied Danzo and smiled with satisfaction. "Now the initiative is back in my hands," he said softly. "Next, we prepare for round 2. The next round will be the final battle." Chapter 139, Birthday, 6th red entry. Cheers! Izanami, happy birthday! It was twilight on June 16th, Konoha year 61. On the training ground clearing of Izanami's estate, cheers rang out. The new generation of rookies had gathered, a rare sight, celebrating Izanami's birthday. Smoke drifted up from several barbecue grills, filling the air with a savory scent. Nearby, long tables sagged under piles of fruit, snacks, and treats. The largest table held a cake 13 layers high. Its 13 candles had already been blown out. Beside it sat delicacies from land and sea, along with drinks and fine wine. Hinata and Karen's shadow clones worked the grills, while the rookies dug into food they usually couldn't afford without a string of profitable missions. "How much does a place like this cost?" Jiraiya, who had come with Uzumaki Naruto to freeload, asked as he sat at another table, nursing a drink and eyeing the luxurious traditional villa. He leaned toward Tsunade and whispered, "Did Izanami break the ninja rules?" Tsunade, flushed from drinking, smacked the table defensively. "What nonsense. Do you have proof? Izanami's capable. Maybe he gambled or has side deals in the black market." Jiraiya's gaze wandered to Izanami seated at the head of another table, serving food to Hanabi, who sat on his lap, and to Hinata on his right. He studied Izanami's red eyeshadow and golden pupils and sighed. To keep Sage Mode active all the time and still control that power, his ability is something else. "Is his Sage Mode from Shikotsu Forest?" Jiraiya asked. "No, he didn't contract with Shikotsu Forest," Tsunade shook her head. "That eyeshadow and pupil color aren't from Mount Myobaku or Ryuchi Cave either. Maybe it's a Sage Mode he comprehended himself." Jiraiya remembered his own struggles with Sage technique and how he still needed Fukasaku and Shima to help. He muttered, half bitter, half envious, "The world of geniuses is terrifying." Most of the rookies assumed Izanami's look was makeup applied by Hinata and Hanabi for his birthday. Besides Jiraiya and Tsunade, only Uchiha Sasuke and the girls knew the truth behind the face paint. Sasuke, sitting to Izanami's left, also wondered aloud, is this Shikatsu Forest's sage mode? Only mediocre people need others to teach them. Geniuses figure it out themselves, Izanami said with a smile. Sasuke felt a flush of irritation. Your mouth is still asking for a punch. Am I? I'm just stating the truth. Surely a genius like you can instant activate sage mode, right? Sasuke snorted, turned away, and buried his face in his food. After the party, the group enjoyed Izanami's entertainment facilities and hot springs and didn't leave until very late, all smiles and satisfied. Jiraiya and Tsunade, completely drunk, were escorted off by Naruto and Shizune. Once they'd cleaned up, Izanami looked up at the starry sky and told Hinata and Hanabi, "It's late. You two should stay here tonight." Okay, the Hyuga sisters agreed. With the clan's permission already sorted, Hinata and Hanabi had told Hiashi about the party earlier. It wasn't the first time they'd stayed over at Izanami's place. After bathing, the gift opening began. The rookies hadn't come just to eat. They had pooled money for the 13-layer cake and brought gifts for Izanami. Akimichi Choji presented a large box of pills of every kind. Nara Shikamaru offered medicinal herbs from his family's holdings. Ino Yamanaka gave packets of flower seeds. Inuzuka Kiba, uncertain whether Izanami and Hinata wanted a dog, gifted an adoption certificate to get a normal or ninja dog from the Inuzuka clan. Shino Aburame's odd present was a pair of sunglasses. Naruto produced a frog-shaped wallet. Sakura Haruno and Minako gave a photo album and rolls of film. Sasuke's gift was a scroll with a technique he developed himself. Sage Technique. Storm Release, White Dragon. Jiraiya and Tsunade arrived empty-handed. Shizune gave an old cultural artifact, something Izanami guessed she treasured. Each gift reflected its giver's personality and means. Sakura and Minako had actually chosen presents tailored to Izanami's tastes. Izanami chuckled, then stowed everything in a cabinet. He then grinned mischievously at the three girls, Hinata, Hanabi, and Karin. "What about your gifts?" "Hey, we've prepared them, Oni-chan." Hanabi giggled and produced a small storage scroll from her kimono sleeve. Hinata and Karin did the same. With a puff of white mist, 3 gift boxes appeared, varying in size. "Izayoi-kun, happy birthday. Oni-chan, happy birthday." The girls handed them over. Izanami opened them eagerly. Karin's was a new model camera, sleeker and far better than his old one. He grinned. "Karin, you're thoughtful," he said, fondly handling the camera. Karin blushed and scratched her head. Hanabi's gift was a piece of clothing. Izanami's eyes widened. "This is a Hokage cloak?" "Hey, you wear that white robe every day." "It's time for a new look," Hanabi said, sizing him up in his sage mode state. "I think a Hokage cloak suits you." Izanami put it on, white with flame-patterned hem, struck a pose and asked, "Does it fit?" "Yes, you're so handsome," Hanabi beamed, her pale purple Byakugan glittering as she gushed like a fangirl. Karin agreed with a direct, delighted expression. Izanami ruffled Hanabi's hair and then opened Hinata's box. It was the smallest, square and modest. If this had been a man giving a woman a present, it might have been a ring, but Izanami didn't expect that from shy Hinata. Inside was a silver pocket watch with a matching chain, plain except for one detail. When he opened the lid, the corner of his mouth lifted. Inside was a photo of 2 children in snowman costumes, grinning their younger selves, Izanami and Hinata. The watch had a separate second-hand area. The second hand showed blue and white tones, and the axis was shaped like a sundial, clearly echoing the reincarnation eye. It wasn't just decorative, it had hidden craftsmanship. Izanami realized Hinata had invested a lot of time into it. "You worked hard, Hinata," he said softly. He placed the watch over his heart and solemnly promised, "I'll treasure this and keep it safe." "As long as Izayoi-kun likes it," Hinata replied, cheeks flushed but steady-eyed, the shy, affectionate smile he'd come to know. Karin tugged Hanabi away, smirking at the scene. Izanami didn't waste the moment. He reached out, pulled Hinata into his arms, and leaned down. Hinata's Byakugan flickered as if seeing a sliver of the future. Her blush deepened into something heady, yet she didn't pull back. She clutched the hem of her kimono and closed her eyes. Like when Ranmaru had secretly used his red eyes ability, pink powder seemed to bloom in the air, drawing a big heart in the room. A system chime seemed to intrude. "Ding, your body has undergone an anomaly, acquiring the talent entry, Sage Body White, cannot be dismantled." By the evening of the last day of June, Izanami soaked in his private hot spring, the water steaming and tinted a greenish blue. If others, like Jiraiya or Sasuke, had seen it, they'd have widened their eyes. The natural energy here was astonishing, the life force too. A single soak could have boosted someone's yang release or wood release chakra markedly. Izanami lay with only his head exposed, a towel on his forehead, and opened his golden sage mode eyes. The hypothesis was right. Good thing I didn't quit halfway, he murmured, studying the water. If I hadn't had a never-ending supply of Grillel stone, I don't know how long I'd have needed soaking in pure natural energy to show a trace of sage characteristics. Next, time to activate the cheat. He brought up his personal panel and scanned his entries. Talent entries: Bloodline Limit, Reincarnation Eye, red. Otsutsuki Bloodline, red. Immortal Eyes, red. Prince of the Byakugan, red. Six Paths Aptitude, red. Chakra Control, gold. Plus, Bloodline Limit, Wood Release, purple. Naruto Uzumaki, purple. All Attribute Physique, purple. Bloodline Limit, Shikotsumiyaku, purple. Sealing Master, purple. Ninjutsu Master, purple. Sage Body, white. Points, 400. Nagato's entries were impressive, 14 entries in total, and, with certain equipment, 4 that reached peak Kage levels. But compared to Izanami, Nagato's entries were nothing. If Nagato's entries weren't already converted into strength, he couldn't stand up to Izanami. Nagato had reached his ceiling. Unless he became the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, he couldn't improve further. Izanami, however, was entering a period of rapid growth. That was the difference cheaters made. Izanami tapped the plus sign next to the white sage body entry. The text immediately turned green and 9 points vanished from his total. He tapped again. The entry turned blue and another 99 points were deducted. Another tap upgraded sage body to purple, costing 999 points. He kept clicking, gold, costing 9,999 points. Then, with a decisive press, the gold text flashed with a red effect and became red. 99,999 points disappeared. Sage Body leapt from the bottom of his list up to sit behind Immortal Eyes, red, now a red entry in its own right. His points balance fell sharply. Points 29992. This was the power of cheating. Hagoromo Otsutsuki had needed top-tier conditions and to become Ten Tails Jinchuriki to achieve a red-level sage body. Izanami, having coaxed a trace of sage characteristics from his body, had simply used his system to jump from the starting point to the finish line. But the surprises didn't stop. Even after sage body reached red, his eyeshadow and the rest didn't change outwardly, but another notification chimed. Ding! Your talent entry, Bloodline Limit Wood Release, has completed sublimation. In his list, Wood Release flipped from purple to gold. Izanami felt a subtle, hard-to-name barrier break within him. He was still studying it when a soft voice whispered at his ear. "Ai, Izayoi-kun, I'm here to give you a massage." Turning, Izanami nearly had a nosebleed. Through the steam, Hinata approached, hair pinned up and wrapped only in a bath towel. He covered his nose with one hand, gave a muffled thumbs up with the other, and grinned. "Hinata, getting bolder and bolder. I like it." Chapter 140, Naruto F4 Yinjue. Lord Orochimaru, you've worked hard this whole time. Inside a cave in the land of rice fields, Izanami watched Orochimaru step out of Ryuchi Cave. He tossed a scroll to him with a smile. "This is what you asked for." Orochimaru's eyes gleamed as the scroll spun through the air. Without waiting for Kabuto, he craned his neck and caught it in his mouth. The sight was so unnerving that any ordinary person would never dare set foot in a cave again. Even Izanami couldn't help but grimace. "Lord Orochimaru, could you please stop that disgusting habit of yours when I'm around?" "Heh, my apologies. I'm simply excited," Orochimaru replied, handing the scroll to Yakushi Kabuto and giving Izanami an apologetic smile. "Sasuke has already mastered Sage Mode for months now. I was worried Izayoi-kun had forgotten our agreement." "If you thought I would forget, why didn't you have Sasuke remind me?" Izanami said with a soft smile. "I believe Izayoi-kun is a man of his word. He will keep his promise. If there was a delay, it must have been because of something important you had to handle." Orochimaru's response was flattering and calculated. "As expected of Lord Orochimaru, that's exactly why I admire you." Izanami nodded, then added, "The Reaper's mask functions like a release seal without hand signs. Wear it, channel chakra into it, and you can summon the Shinigami." But like the release seal, once the Shinigami departs, it will take the summoner's soul with it. Therefore, to retrieve your soul later, you must find someone who knows you, whom you trust, and who is willing to give their life to become the sacrifice for this jutsu. You may keep the mask for now. When you no longer need it, have Sasuke return it to me. No sooner had Izanami finished than his figure vanished. Orochimaru and Kabuto's pupils constricted. Kabuto's voice trembled. That was the Flying Thunder God technique. An unexpected jutsu, Orochimaru breathed. But such a display of ninjutsu talent isn't unreasonable. As one of the protagonists of the new era, what seems incredible to us may very well be ordinary to them. Kabuto's shock didn't subside. He stammered. Lord Orochimaru, was Izanami-sama just now his main body? Did you sense him while he was here? Orochimaru's face changed. He has grown stronger, he said, disbelief in his tone. Could he have reached an extraordinary level? But I could have sworn he hasn't even entered his true growth period yet. How is this possible? The weak feel the oppression of the strong. It's a natural suppression, like a chain in the food web. Orochimaru and Kabuto had felt that same pressure when they met the Edo Tensei Madara and when Orochimaru faced Nagato. Yet just now, Orochimaru had not felt that oppressive presence from Izanami. No overwhelming chakra, no sense of being crushed by superiority. To all appearances, Izanami had been an ordinary person. That absence of sensing was what terrified them. As Kaji-level strategists, they knew what it meant. Izanami's nature of presence had shifted. He had become unreadable to ordinary sensory techniques. Perhaps his power had reached another dimension beyond the 5 Kage. Perhaps it had to do with a sage-like connection to nature, or a new state of wood-release evolution. Whatever the cause, Izanami now possessed the characteristic of being immune to low-level sensing. Recovering from the shock, Orochimaru smiled thinly. Everyone says the future of the ninja world will be decided by the one who controls the Outer Path demonic statue. The clash between the ninja god of the new era and the visitor from the moon will decide if the Rinnegan era begins or if ancient ocular power remains supreme. Now it looks like the theme of the new era will be a three-way standoff. The strongest modern bloodline limit, the immortal eyes of antiquity, and the power that arrived from the moon. He chuckled. It's fascinating. I can't wait to see Izayoi-kun show his true strength and shake the shinobi world. But I need to live to see that. Thinking of what Zetsu could do, Orochimaru turned to Kabuto. Kabuto, let's go. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. 2 afterimages darted from the cave like arrows. 3 days later, inside a hidden base, Orochimaru looked at the blue-haired woman kneeling before him. His voice was hoarse. Guren, are you truly willing to sacrifice your life for me? Yes, Lord Orochimaru. It is my honor. Guren lifted her head, fanatic devotion on her face. My body is the best reincarnation vessel. There are no signs of collapse now, so I don't need to reincarnate every 3 years anymore, Orochimaru said. Guren, you are no longer my backup vessel. If you still have attachments in this world, I can prepare another sacrifice. Orochimaru's words came from the heart. Unlike the orphans of the Sound Village, he had genuine trust and high hopes for loyal subordinates he personally cultivated. Kimimaro, Guren, Kabuto. If Guren declined, he could cultivate another. But Guren's brain seal still held her loyalty. She answered with firm conviction, Lord Orochimaru, please let me be the sacrifice for your return to the peak. I trust no one else. You will die. I'm not afraid, she said, smiling up at him with adoration. If I hadn't met Lord Orochimaru, I would be dead already. Let me do for you what Kimimaro did once, just one last thing. Orochimaru was silent for a moment, then spat a scroll toward her. It rolled at her feet. Then I will trouble you, Guren, he said in a hoarse voice. Yes! Guren didn't hesitate. She opened the scroll, formed the hand signs, and took out its contents. With a soft boom of released smoke, a white demon-shaped mask appeared. 4 photographs lay beside it, the 4 Hokage. Orochimaru said, besides the souls of my hands, please help me release the souls of these 4 as well. Yes, Lord Orochimaru. Guren recognized the faces and nodded heavily. She drew a deep breath, stood, and took the Reaper's mask. Looking at Orochimaru one last time, she smiled. Sayonara, Lord Orochimaru. Sayonara, Guren, he replied softly. She placed the mask over her face and channeled chakra into it. Her body trembled. A dazzling aura surged through her. Ah! Guren cried, her voice tragic as her form convulsed. Orochimaru watched impassively. The chakra aura around her abruptly vanished, replaced by a bone-chilling stillness that filled the room. Orochimaru's vertical pupils widened. He knew without seeing that the legendary Shinigami hovered above Guren. Then a massive, gushing wound tore across her body as 5 fist-sized bluish chakra spheres manifested above her head and scattered. One of the spheres darted toward Orochimaru and seeped into him. In an instant, sensation returned to the arms that had been numb for nearly a year. Chakra could flow through his meridians again. His fingers flexed, his palms were strong and dexterous. "My ninjutsu has returned," Orochimaru cried, wild delight on his face, but the joy was bitter. Guren's corpse slumped to the floor, her soul drained. Orochimaru's expression softened. "You've done well, Guren," he said quietly. He called to the shadows, "Kabuto, take Guren's body and bury her." "Yes!" Kabuto stored the corpse in a storage scroll and left the base at once. Orochimaru picked up the white mask and looked at the demon's face. He sighed. The release seal. What a terrifying technique. Had Hiruzen Sarutobi had even a shred of strength left last year, he might have been more than maimed. He might have been devoured by that invisible Shinigami. The mask's power to ignore strength differences and annihilate both summoner and target upon contact was chilling. However, it should be ineffective against truly extraordinary powerhouses, right? Orochimaru muttered, thinking of Izanami's indifferent demeanor. He was about to sheath the mask and prepare when a calm voice spoke from behind his ear. "So that mask is in your hands." "Who?" Orochimaru snapped, turning. The color drained from his face when he saw who stood in the air before him. Otsutsuki Toneri, whom Izanami had been disguising, floated with arms crossed, looking down. "My eyes have watched the ninja world. All its powerful figures are of interest to me," he said. "I've wondered why that one would target you. So you have a way to contact the Shinigami. That mask is recorded by the Whirlpool clan." Orochimaru vanished in an afterimage, then reappeared a few meters away, feet floating as he lunged. Wind release, wind blade. He shaped chakra into invisible cutting blades and sent them at Toneri. The hand Toneri had used to manipulate gravity glowed emerald. A ball of green light formed and shot out. It didn't aim to strike the wind blades directly. It merely brushed past them, and the wind blades collapsed back into chakra. The collapsing chakra was drawn into the green sphere like a magnet. The sphere moved with terrifying speed and struck Orochimaru before he even landed. He felt an immediate drain, his chakra, spiritual energy, and even physical energy depleted in an instant. He collapsed weakly. One moment he had been a figure capable of toppling elderly Kage. The next, he could barely lift himself. The green sphere pulsed with a bluish-green flame. If Izanami had unleashed its power here, the base would have been ash. The Kage-level chakra contained within was vast. The sphere returned to Toneri's hand. With his other hand, he condensed another green sphere and fired it toward Orochimaru on the ground. Orochimaru closed his eyes, despair and regret on his face. He had wanted to be a witness to the new era's rampage. As the light entered him, his expression went blank. Toneri then tossed the drained sphere through Orochimaru's body. The light passed through him, and he was instantly restored. Toneri reached out, placed one hand on Orochimaru's head, and with the other condensed a mental sphere to scan his memories. In moments, he had what he wanted. Then both figures vanished without warning. In a misty region of the Land of Water, a hidden mist ninja wearing a vest stood with a vacant expression before two figures. Orochimaru took out a medium, formed hand signs, and slammed his palms to the ground. Impure world reincarnation. Two lines of incantations spread, white dust coalescing to envelop the dull-looking mist ninja. He screamed, twisting and deforming painfully as the jutsu took hold. The ordinary-looking mist shinobi transformed into a remarkably tall man in divine robes with short golden hair and fissures running over his skin. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, the man Jiraiya had called near-perfect. Izanami stepped forward and raised his hand. He condensed a green light sphere and drove it into Minato's body. Orange-red chakra surged forth from Minato like a great balloon swelling up until it became a mountain of chakra. If this had happened in a populated area, distant onlookers might have seen chakra coalescing into the form of the Nine Tails. "I've revived my other half of chakra," Izanami declared. Inside Naruto Uzumaki, the yang half of Kurama suddenly opened its eyes wide. It howled in panic. Who is it? Who is controlling me?